Zlatan Ibrahimovic grew up bullied, beaten, and so poor that his family couldn't even afford to eat. As a teenager, he stole food and even bicycles just to survive, and probably should have ended up in prison for it. But with all the odds stacked against him, somehow he came out on top, becoming one of the greatest football players of all time. So, how did a poor bike thief write his name in history by becoming football's deadliest striker? This is the full story of Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Came like a king, just like this.
A ball for Ibrahimovic! Oh, come on! Come on!
I'm not a typical Swedish guy, but I put Sweden on the map. So.
On the 3rd of October 1981, Zlatan Ibrahimovic was born, and he wasn't dealt the best of hands to begin with. He grew up in a rough neighborhood in Malmö, Sweden, and was bullied as a child. I know it's hard to imagine the 6'5" self-proclaimed lion was ever bullied, but he was small as a kid. He had a big nose and a lisp, so he was an easy target. As a kid, his mother would often hit him with a wooden spoon. The spoon would break on his head, and she would then make him go out and buy a new one just to do it again. Zlatan was living with his single mother and his 5 siblings, whom she was struggling to support by herself with her job as a cleaner. When he was 9, his mother was arrested, so Zlatan was sent off to live with his father, where things didn't get much better. His father did his best and sacrificed everything to give Zlatan a shot at football, even going as far as to delay rent just to pay for Zlatan's football academy. But this had its repercussions. This lack of money often led to a lack of food, and as Zlatan described, an empty fridge with occasional milk, ham, and cheese. This desperation sent Zlatan down a rough path where he would often shoplift just to be able to eat, and would even take this as far as stealing bikes just to support himself. It's crazy to think that if Zlatan continued down that path, he'd just be some criminal in a Swedish prison and wouldn't be the icon we know today. But luckily, Zlatan had one thing going for him. He was a wizard with his feet, having grown up playing street football. By growing up, Zlatan was more than just a football player. He also got his black belt in Taekwondo, but his love for football took over thanks to his idol, Ronaldo Nazario. Now, this rough upbringing of his definitely molded him into the tough guy we know today. He had to be tough just to survive. We see it in the way he plays football, and he even says that to play well, he needs to be angry. What made him even angrier was that he felt inferior to the other kids. He had no money, he had worse clothes, but he told himself, one day I'll show them. This was his motivation to work even harder. At age 15, Zlatan was part of the Malmö Youth Academy and was ready to give up on football. He was close to quitting to go work full-time at the docks, but his coach at the time managed to convince him to stay. Soon after, Zlatan signed his first professional contract with Malmö and joined the senior team at just 17 years old. Now, in Zlatan's position growing up, 99 out of 100 guys would have given up. They would have quit with the impossible odds they were given. But Zlatan was different. He was the 1 out of 100, and he was about to prove his worth as he was finally a professional football player. In 1999, Zlatan Ibrahimovic joined the Malmö first team. He spent a couple of years there where he picked up a total of 16 league goals in 40 games, but his talent was clear for everyone to see. At 19 years old, Zlatan transferred from Malmö to Ajax for 9 million euros, which is where his career would shift into a whole new gear. He was actually close to signing for Arsenal, but the manager, Arsene Wenger, wanted him to do a trial first. But even as a teenager, Zlatan found this offer insulting, saying, "I don't do trials. You either want me or you don't." This is where we start to see the ego and the confidence of Zlatan, which would only grow as his career went on, and you'll see a lot more of this soon. But anyway, for now, Zlatan was 19 years old and playing for Ajax. He took some time to get going until a change in management where Ronald Koeman took charge, which is when Zlatan finally became the main man for Ajax. He spent 3 years at the club, winning 2 league titles and scoring 48 goals in 110 games. During this time, he made his debut for the Swedish national team, and on national duty, he got himself into some serious controversy with his Ajax teammates. In 2004, Sweden played the Netherlands in a friendly where Zlatan ended up injuring Rafael van der Vaart, his Ajax teammate. Van der Vaart came out and claimed that Zlatan did this on purpose, even though they were teammates at club level, which made Zlatan furious. When he returned to Ajax, he went up to him and told him, him, "I didn't injure you on purpose, and you know that. If you accuse me again, I'll break both your legs, and that time, it will be on purpose." After this argument, the Ajax fans weren't on Zlatan's side, so on his first game back, the crowd booed him, but within 90 minutes, the boos turned into applause when he scored this goal. This was one of Zlatan's greatest goals, but not his greatest, because we'll get to a few of those soon. But this is the goal that put him into the spotlight of European football and triggered bigger clubs to come knocking. At this time, he also started to work with agent Mino Raiola, who would play a huge role throughout Zlatan's whole career, and together they engineered an €18 million move from Ajax to Juventus, which would mark the start of Zlatan's Italian domination. 22 years old and hungry, Zlatan arrived in Turin and was thrown right into the starting 11 because of an injury to the main striker. In his first season with Juventus, he formed part of a deadly attack with Trezeguet and Del Piero, who helped Juventus lift the Serie A title. Zlatan pitched in with 16 league goals and was given the Foreign Football Player of the Year award in Italy. He was also awarded the Swedish Player of the Year award for the first time. This was an award he would go on to win 14 more times in his career. This season also saw Ibrahimovic fall victim to a severely brutal tackle from Marco Materazzi, and this is important because Zlatan isn't one to just forgive and forget, but he'd have to wait to get his revenge. But don't worry, because he definitely got it, as you'll soon see. But anyway, after such a great start to life in Italy, that summer, Juventus allegedly rejected a €70 million bid for him from Real Madrid, but later the truth came out, which was that this was a made-up story by agent Mino Raiola to increase Zlatan's market value. But anyway, moving into his second season with Juventus, things took a turn for the worse as he was shifted out onto the wing and struggled to be as effective as the previous season. They still won the Serie A, but the Juventus fans grew extremely frustrated with Zlatan, but he would prove to be the least of Juve's problems as they had just got caught for match fixing and were immediately relegated to Serie B, meaning that next season Zlatan would be playing in the second division of Italian football. Thankfully for Zlatan, Mino Raiola had his back once again and managed to get him out of Juventus by threatening legal action on the club, so he was able to sign for Italian rivals Inter Milan for a total fee of €25 million. A goal on his Inter debut, and he was already back to his best, leading the line with Hernan Crespo. Inter won the Serie A with a record 97 points in his first season there. Zlatan says that he supported Inter as a child, so this was really a proud achievement for him. In his second season there, he just got even better, as he was becoming the focal point of this attack, winning a second title in a row and picking up the Serie A Player of the Year award. He was now considered as one of the best football players in the world, and he matched that status by signing a new contract, making him the highest paid football player in the world. Now going into the 2008-2009 season, Jose Mourinho arrived at Inter, and it was love at first sight between him and Zlatan. Ibra had his best season ever, scoring 29 goals, winning a third Serie A in a row, and a second Player of the Year award in a row. This bond he built with Jose Mourinho would be important throughout his career, but more on that soon. This season, Zlatan also scored the Serie A goal of the season, which was a great goal, still isn't his greatest goal ever, because that's coming in a couple of years' time. Now, despite dominating Serie A and winning 5 titles in a row across 2 clubs, Zlatan was still missing the Champions League trophy, so he decided to move to the reigning champions Barcelona. But little did he know that this would be the start of a nightmare season for Zlatan, which was going to be one of the biggest mistakes in his entire career. But before we get into this horror year, I need your help. You see, I'm trying to hit 100K subs this year, so I'm asking you to please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support, and I know we can do it together. But anyway, enough rambling on this. Now let me tell you about Zlatan's nightmare year in Barcelona. A 27-year-old Zlatan landed in Barcelona for a fee of €40 million and a swap for Samuel Eto'o, and was arguably the best striker in the world at the time. Zlatan got off to a Rolls-Royce start, scoring in his first 5 consecutive league matches. Things were looking great. He was happy with his manager Pep Guardiola. He was at the best club in Europe, and he was looking like he was finally going to win the Champions League. But one player ruined this all for him. Lionel Messi was the golden boy at at Barcelona. He was the best player in the world at the time, and midway through the season, he decided he wanted to start playing through the center in a false nine position. The problem with this is that was Zlatan's position, meaning he got shifted out wide and even onto the bench at times to accommodate Messi. In Zlatan's autobiography, he had this to say about the situation. It started well, but then Messi started to talk. He wanted to play in the middle, not on the wing, so the system changed from 4-3-3 to 4-5-1. I was sacrificed and no longer had the freedom on the pitch I need to succeed. Now, even though Zlatan lost his position, he still scored a decent amount of goals with 21 goals for the season, but as the season progressed, things only got worse for him. Barcelona made their way to the Champions League semi-final and drew Inter Milan, Zlatan's old club, and they lost. After this game, Zlatan lost it with Guardiola and told him, "You haven't got any balls. You can go to hell." Zlatan was expecting Pep to respond to the confrontation, but that was actually the last conversation they ever had together. From that day on, Pep would avoid Zlatan in training and refuse to communicate with him, which is why Zlatan now describes him as a spineless coward, which showed a severe contrast to the love he had for manager Jose Mourinho in the season before. But to make matters even worse, Inter Milan went on to win the Champions League and the treble, meaning Zlatan's transfer in search of a Champions League trophy was a massive mistake. Now at this point, only one thing was clear, and that was that Zlatan's future with Guardiola and Barcelona was definitely over. So after just one season in Spain, he transferred back to Milan, but not to Inter Milan. Instead, to their fiercest rivals AC Milan, where he was going to take over Serie A once again. Ibrahimovic initially signed for AC Milan on a loan deal, but made it permanent after the first season. When he arrived in Milan, he made a statement where he had this to say: "This move gives me more adrenaline. I've moved here to win the Champions League with Milan. I want to win the double." Now, Zlatan must have some Champions League curse, because this season, Barcelona won the Champions League, meaning that 2 years in a row, he transferred to a new club to win the tournament, but the club he transferred from won it instead both times. Despite his Champions League heartaches, he tore up the Serie A with AC Milan, winning the league in his first season, meaning he won it with 3 different clubs, ending Inter Milan's dominance as they won the last 5 titles. Zlatan spent 2 seasons in Milan where he was simply world class, scoring a total of 56 goals in 85 matches. He also chipped in with a lot of assists as his all-round play was the best it's ever been. But obviously, this is Zlatan Ibrahimovic, so his time in Milan had its share of controversies, and most notably what happened on the 14th of November 2010, because he sent Marco Materazzi to the hospital. In a Milan derby, Zlatan faced off against Marco, and he finally had his chance to get revenge on the Italian defender for that horror tackle he gave him all those years ago. So Zlatan didn't hold back with a kung fu kick to the chest, which sent Materazzi to the emergency room. After the game, Zlatan came out and said that this was completely intentional and that he had to wait 4 years for this moment to finally come. His time at AC Milan also saw him score the greatest goal of his entire career, but this actually came with the national team in a game against England. Sweden won this game 4-2. Zlatan scored all 4 goals, but his 4th goal was something else.
Well, Hart didn't quite get that right. Oh, look at that! That is absolutely astonishing.
This goal was awarded the Puskás Award in 2013 for being the best goal scored in the entire year, and that was definitely deserved. Now, come the end of Zlatan's second season with Milan, they failed to win the Serie A as Juventus picked up the title. But Zlatan had his best individual season yet, scoring 28 goals in 32 league games. By this point in his career, Zlatan was getting bored of the Serie A and was looking for a new challenge, and there was a club over in France that hadn't won the league in 18 years, but was looking like it had the potential to take over football. So with the help of Mino Raiola, Zlatan made the move to PSG for €20 million, where he was about to kickstart a new dynasty. On the 17th of July 2012, Paris Saint-Germain announced the signing of their new star striker, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Now Zlatan is 30 years old, and for most football players, that would be the start of their decline, but not Zlatan, because this man aged like fine wine, as he was about to enter what were arguably his prime years, and he still had a decade of top-flight football left in him. Zlatan joined a very exciting PSG team, as they had just been taken over by new owners who were throwing money around, and this spending spree worked, as in Zlatan's first season in France, they lifted the league title for the first time in 19 years. In this first season, Zlatan chipped in with a total of 40 goal contributions and won himself the Ligue 1 Player of the Year award. Oh, and of course, Zlatan got into some, let's say, arguments. In only his first season, he kicked the Saint-Etienne goalkeeper in the chest, he stamped on Lovren's head, and then also got a ban for stamping on the Valencia winger Andres Guardado. Now, roll on the 2013-14 season, and Zlatan just got even better, scoring 41 goals in 46 games, and just like the season before, he won the League Player of the Year award and Top Scorer award. But this year, he also picked up the Ligue 1 Goal of the Season, a great goal scorer and a scorer of great goals. Now, his third season in Paris was a bit slower compared to the previous two on an individual level, but he still picked up a third league in a row and a domestic quadruple. But maybe he was just fueling up for the 15-16 season, where he really turned up. At 33 years old, Zlatan scored 51 goals in 50 games, as he broke pretty much every record PSG had to be broken. He became their all-time top goal scorer, he won his fourth league in a row, and he cemented himself as a legend in the French capital. But despite putting up these insane stats throughout his entire career, some people still doubted him. He can do it in the French league, but can he do it in the best league in the world? Zlatan knew that to cement his legacy in football, he had to prove himself in the Premier League, and at this same time, his old friend Jose Mourinho took charge of Manchester United and was ready for a reunion with the Swedish striker, as they were ready to prove all the haters wrong. Zlatan signed for Man United as a free agent after being convinced by Jose Mourinho to join. Upon his arrival in England, the English media had it in for him, doubting that he could achieve anything of significance at his old age of 34. But this was just fuel for Zlatan. He loved to hear the doubters and loved to prove them wrong. He got off to a great start by scoring a goal on his debut and continuing this fine form throughout the season. In his first season at United, he won 3 trophies, including a Europa League, making it his first European trophy ever. He also finished the league season with 17 goals, proving he could do it in England, but things really took a turn for the worse in April of that same season. After jumping for the ball, he landed badly and suffered one of the worst injuries a football player can face. He tore a ligament in his knee. An injury like this at 35 years old should be career-ending. Zlatan probably should have retired on the spot after such a great career, but he was determined to recover and come back next season. During the recovery process, the doctors involved said they had never seen a knee recover as well as Zlatan's. They never found one as strong as him, which was just music to his ears. Going into his second season at United, they signed a new striker in Romelu Lukaku, as Zlatan was now deemed old and unreliable. After returning from injury, he struggled to cement a place in the team, and it really was looking like he was done at United. So in March of the 17-18 season, both United and Zlatan mutually agreed to terminate his contract, and Zlatan was left looking for a new challenge in his career. 36 years old, Zlatan decided to make the move over to the MLS to join LA Galaxy. Now, usually when an older player moves to America, it's to ease into retirement in a slower league, and they never return to top-flight football. But Zlatan was different, because after his time in the MLS, he was going to return to Europe for one last hurrah to cement his legacy. But we'll get to that soon. The day Zlatan signed, he paid for a full-page advertisement in the LA Times, where he simply wrote, "Dear Los Angeles, Angeles, you're welcome. But this wasn't the only ego display from Zlatan, because also upon his arrival, NBA star LeBron James sent him a jersey as a welcome gift, and Zlatan signed the jersey and sent it back to LeBron. That's one way to make friends, I guess. Zlatan's first game in the MLS came in a derby against LAFC, where he found himself as a substitute, but when he came on, he really put on a show with an insane volley to level the game and then a last-minute header to secure his team the victory. After the match, he had this to say.
The fans were demanding something and I gave them Zlatan.
Zlatan went on to spend 2 seasons in the MLS, where he was clearly a cut above the rest of the league. He scored 56 goals in 52 games, was an MLS All-Star in his 2 seasons, and was named the captain in his 2nd season. He also scored his 500th career goal against Toronto and said that he was happy for Toronto, as they would be remembered as his 500th victim. Now, during his time in America, there was often the debate between who was the best player in the MLS, as he was being compared to Carlos Vela, but Zlatan wasn't having any of this. Zlatan would come back at these remarks saying this.
There's another player in Los Angeles, Carlos Vela. In this moment, he's got 19 goals, 12 assists, and his team is leading Major League Soccer. Do you still consider yourself the best player in Major League Soccer?
By far. Because if he's in his prime, how old is he?
Carlos Vela's 29.
29. He's playing in MLS and he's in his prime. When I was 29, where was I?
Yeah, you were in Europe.
Big difference.
Yes. Yeah.
Exactly.
But now, after 2 years of domination, Zlatan was done with the MLS, but not done with football, because he still had some unfinished business left over in Italy, as since he left AC Milan all those years ago, they declined from a powerhouse to a club that was struggling to even get Champions League football. So Zlatan knew what he had to do. It was time for the Lion to return. Ibrahimovic re-signed for AC Milan halfway through the 1920 season at 38 years of age with one mission: to take Milan back to the top of Italian football. In his first season back, he performed well, scoring 11 goals in 20 games, but more than just the goals, he was instilling belief in his teammates that they could go on and do something special. In January of 2020, he scored a goal against Cagliari, which was a significant milestone, as he became the first player to ever score in 4 separate decades, being the 1990s, 2010s, and now the 2020s. Going into the 2021 season, Zlatan and Milan had a phenomenal start, as they found themselves top of the league in January. Now, remember, at this point, Juventus had won 9 titles in a row, meaning that for anyone else to win, it would be an insane feat. But the issue came when Zlatan picked up a season-ending injury, which caused Milan to fall away, and instead, Inter picked up this title, which still put an end to the Juve domination. By the end of this second season, Zlatan's contract expired, but he refused to give up just yet, so he signed an extension with the hope of bringing the Serie A back to AC Milan. Going into this next season, Zlatan was 40 years old, and at an age where he really shouldn't have been playing top-flight football. He was defying all the odds, but that's what he does. His performances did slow down slightly this season in terms of output, but he still chipped in with 8 league goals and 3 assists. But the power of Zlatan was more than just goals. He instilled belief in his team and was a crucial part of this season. Come the end of the season, Milan were still looking like they were going to lift the title till April, when Zlatan faced a heartbreak. On the 30th of April 2022, it was announced that Mino Raiola passed away. This was devastating for Zlatan, as he was so much more than just an agent. He was like family. The month later, Zlatan and AC Milan managed to lift the Serie A title for the first time in 11 years, which Zlatan dedicated to Raiola. What's crazy is that after this season, Zlatan came out and said that he played the last 6 months with an ACL tear, meaning after every single game, he had to drain fluid from his knee, and he always played with extreme pain. But this was worth it, as he finally got Milan back to the top of Italian football. Zlatan signed a 1-year contract extension, which would see him playing into the 22-23 season, but due to these injuries, he didn't really play much, and he was finally ready to hang up his boots, as at 41 years old, his body was starting to give way. So at the end of the season, he finally announced his retirement from football. 570 career goals, 34 trophies won, and now looking back on his childhood, Zlatan always has a full fridge of food. What a player. Now, imagine having the most talented player in the Premier League in your squad, and all you could offer him was a loan to Burnley? And imagine letting him go to your rivals, only for him to become the Premier League's best player that same season. Well, this is exactly what Pep Guardiola did to Cole Palmer, because since joining Chelsea, no Premier League player has registered more goal contributions than him, and he's just a midfielder. He's the coldest, the calmest, and the most exciting talent in the Premier League, and this is the story of how he fought his way through rejection to now dominating English football.
Here's Cole Palmer. Yes! City's boy is Chelsea's man!
Cole Palmer was born on the 6th of May 2022 and had quite an average upbringing growing up in a middle-class district of Manchester where, from a very young age, Palmer's surroundings shaped his footballing dreams. His father was a massive source of inspiration for him as he was actively involved in the local football scene, and as a young boy, Palmer would often watch his dad play Sunday League, where he absorbed the basics of the game and quickly developed a hunger to get onto the pitch and become the best player he could possibly be. Football was also a constant topic in their household, and it quickly became clear that young Cole was destined for this sport. Growing up, Palmer idolized one player above anyone else, and that was the Manchester United legend Wayne Rooney, and it had become his dream to follow in his footsteps at United. But at just 8 years old, Palmer was faced with one of the toughest decisions of his life. He was handed 2 youth academy offers, one from Man United and one from Man City, with the difference being Man United was a trial and Man City was a concrete offer. So Cole had to make the tough choice of putting himself first and opted to sign for Man City. And interestingly, this wouldn't be the last time Cole would have to make a tough decision like this. But for now, at just 8 years old, the decision to join Manchester City's academy paid off as he was launched into one of the best youth systems in the world where his talent could truly shine. Fast forward to 2018, Cole is 16 years old and the Manchester City Academy were holding a meeting to decide which players to release, and surprisingly enough, Palmer's name was on the list after struggling for 2 seasons in a row. His teammates had outgrown him physically, his performances had dipped, and the academy seemed more interested in finding faster, more powerful dribblers. But just as they were about to cut Palmer loose, Jason Wilcox, the academy director, stepped in and overruled the decision. When asked what he saw in Palmer, Wilcox replied, "He's extremely clever. You can't even see what he's seeing." Cole had the brains, but he knew that his size was an issue, and luckily for him, over the next year his prayers would be answered. He shot up in height, growing from 5'7" to 6'2", and a year later, not only was he captaining City's under-18s to a league title with 20 goal contributions in just 12 games, but he also led them to the FA Youth Cup final, where he assisted their equalizer and scored the winning goal. After that match, he lifted his jersey to reveal a tribute to Jeremy Whiston, a former teammate who tragically took his own life after City dropped him during the pandemic. Reflecting on that moment, Palmer said, "Off the pitch, I'm not loud. I don't say much, but once I'm on it, everything comes out." Cole went on to claim an impressive 20 goals and 8 assists in just 32 games for City's under-18 team, earning himself a promotion to the under-23s and got Guardiola's eyes on him. In the following season, Palmer did get the occasional call-up to train with City's first team under Pep Guardiola, but Cole spent most of his time playing for the under-23s, and even though he was dominating at that level, Guardiola found it difficult to implement him into the main squad, having the likes of Kevin De Bruyne, Phil Foden, and Bernardo Silva all playing in his preferred position. But finally, Palmer's rise to prominence on the big stage began with his first team debut for City in a Carabao Cup game against Burnley in 2020. He continued to get sporadic minutes for the first team, but he was still hungry to get every minute on the football pitch he possibly could, so much so that one evening, after making an appearance in the Premier League with the first team, Cole rushed back to the under-23s, hoping to be included in the starting lineup despite already having played earlier that day, and ended up scoring a hat-trick. But when asked about it, he brushed it off, saying, "If there's a game, I want to be in it. It's not a big deal." Palmer's breakthrough came in the Champions League when he scored his first European goal against Club Brugge, marking a huge step in his career. Being called up for the Champions League and getting the chance to play at this elite level was a monumental moment for him, proving he was ready for the big stage. And with this increasing success, along with his efforts for Manchester City's youth teams, he managed to earn himself a nomination for the 2022 Golden Boy Award, putting him among the top young talents to watch in the Premier League. Pep started to acknowledge what a talent he had up his sleeve, and he reiterated to Cole to keep being patient and that he will soon get the game time he truly deserves. But Cole's hunger for glory would soon overpower his patience, as we'll soon see. By the 22-23 season, Palmer had become a regular off the bench, making 25 appearances and featuring in crucial matches against teams like Liverpool, Chelsea, and Sevilla. His form continued to soar in the summer with standout performances in the Super Cup final against Sevilla and the Community Shield against Arsenal, where he scored in both matches. But despite earning a few more senior appearances, injuries and Manchester City's focus on other competitions continued to limit Cole's opportunities. Even though he averaged a goal contribution every 85 minutes under Guardiola, the promises of "next year it'll be your turn" went unfulfilled. And even as City sold some of their key players, seemingly creating an opportunity for Palmer to step up, he still found himself on the sidelines, watching as his teammates went on to achieve the club's greatest triumph, winning the treble. It was a bittersweet moment for him. He was handed the winner's medal, but he didn't play the part in the team he wanted to. Cole joined England's under-21s for the European Championship, and after a slow start, he eventually found his groove in the semi-finals, where he assisted the opening goal, scored the second, and assisted the third, and days later, he even scored the winning free kick to secure the championship. Palmer was now a European champion by his own terms, but despite his international success, Guardiola offered him a loan move to Burnley upon his return. Palmer's response was simple: "No, and I want to leave." With the transfer window closing, City brought in another winger in Doku, which was the final straw for Palmer, who felt he needed regular game time, especially with the Euros on the horizon. But despite the club's underwhelming treatment, Cole ended his 13-year run with Manchester City with a collection of major trophies. But luckily for him, the talent he had showcased throughout his time at City did not go unnoticed. And when Chelsea came knocking on the door, Cole didn't hesitate to make the move, and this would prove to be the best choice in his career so far. Cole Palmer joined Chelsea from Manchester City on transfer deadline day in September 2023 for a hefty £40 million, and, full of anger, he was ready to prove that his former team made the wrong decision to let him go. At first glance, the majority of Chelsea fans were disappointed with this signing, as they considered him a £40 million City reject and would have much rather spent the money on a high-profile player. But despite the criticism, Cole kept calm, and just a day after his signing, he made his debut as a substitute in a home game against Nottingham Forest, and a couple weeks later made his first start during a Carabao Cup victory over Brighton, where he provided the assist for the winning goal. Palmer's first goal for Chelsea came 2 matches later, when he converted a penalty in a 4-1 win over Burnley in October 2023. Ironic, considering he would have been playing for Burnley if he took the loan deal. Anyway, despite the great talent and depth of the Chelsea squad, the team was collectively underperforming. But this did not pressure Cole, who managed to settle quickly within the starting 11, as he had a good relationship with the manager Mauricio Pochettino, who could see the hunger and talent Cole possessed. Cole quickly established himself as a key player for Chelsea, becoming the first-choice penalty taker, so much so that his first 4 goals for the club came from the penalty spot, including a dramatic stoppage-time equalizer against his former team, Manchester City, where he showed his true ice-cold colors with his shrugging celebration against his former team who let him go. And only a day after, he received his first call-up to the England senior squad, where he made his debut against Malta in a 2-0 win, marking yet another major milestone for the rising star. And now, the Euros call-up was starting to look like a real possibility. Palmer's performances continue to impress, with open play goals following soon after. His second open play goal was a skillful finish after skipping past the goalkeeper in a win over Luton, decorated with his trademark ice-cold celebration, and was voted Chelsea's goal of the month for December. He started scoring so regularly now that his ice-cold celebration became his trademark move and landed him the nickname Cold Palmer. He claims that his friend Morgan Rogers once did the celebration for Middlesbrough, so he picked it up, and it has stuck ever since. But things for Cole would be taken to a whole new level in March and April, when he scored 11 goals in just 6 games. This run included a hat-trick against Manchester United, where he scored 2 late goals to turn a defeat into victory, and 4 goals against Everton, including a first-half hat-trick. His first goal against Everton won the Premier League Goal of the Month award, and Palmer was named Premier League Player of the Month for April, becoming the first Chelsea player to receive the honor since Eden Hazard in 2018 and the second youngest ever behind Arjen Robben. Come May, Palmer became the first Chelsea player aged 21 or younger to reach 30 Premier League goal involvements in a season. His success was acknowledged during the Chelsea Annual Awards, where he won both the Chelsea Player of the Year award, voted for by fans, and the Players Player of the Year award. Palmer also secured the Premier League's Youngest Player of the Season award and was voted the Premier League's Fans Player. He was truly the saving grace of Chelsea, who managed to end their 23-24 horror season rather strongly thanks to his individual brilliance, making him worthy of all his achievements so far, as by the end of his debut season at Chelsea, Palmer had played 45 games, mostly as a midfielder, impressively scoring 25 goals, 22 of which came in the Premier League, second only to Manchester City's Erling Haaland. He also provided 11 assists, ranking second in the league behind Aston Villa's Ollie Watkins, which are some insane stats for just a Man City reject. And soon enough, we see that Palmer's decision to leave Manchester City turned out to be the right move yet again, as the phone rang and Southgate told him he was selected for the England squad to play in the 2024 Euros. But despite being the second top scorer in the Premier League that season, England manager Gareth Southgate didn't see him fit as a regular starter, but every time Palmer got on the pitch, he made an impact. In the group stages, he came off the bench and played a key role, setting up crucial chances that helped England advance, and as the tournament progressed, Palmer continued to impress, delivering solid performances in the little time he had in each of the knockout games. Then came the final against Spain, and even though Palmer wasn't in the starting lineup, he came on in the 70th minute and instantly made his mark by scoring the equalizing goal 3 minutes after entering the pitch. It was a huge moment for him on the international stage, proving yet another manager wrong and showing that he was always ready for these big occasions. But unfortunately, England conceded a second goal and fell short once again, bottling another international final. But despite this first major upset, his standout performances for the previous season continue to earn him recognition, including nominations for the Ballon d'Or and the Young Player of the Year award. Palmer then signed a 2-year contract extension until 2033, at the beginning of the 24-25 season, which he kicked off in spectacular fashion, scoring a brilliant lob at a 6-2 win over Wolverhampton Wanderers, a goal that was voted both Chelsea's and the Premier League's Goal of the Month for August. In September, Palmer made history by becoming the first Premier League player to score 4 goals in the first half of a match, joining an elite group of Chelsea players to have achieved this feat. Among his goals that day was a stunning free kick, which was voted Chelsea's Goal of the Month, and he also won his second Premier League Player of the Month award after only 50 appearances for the club. Palmer's incredible rise shows no signs of slowing down as he becomes one of the Premier League's brightest talents. Now a key player for both club and country, Palmer's future looks bright, and Pep Guardiola surely must be regretting letting the young superstar go. Now, in 2005, Ronaldinho won the Ballon d'Or, being named the best football player in the world. But just 15 years later, he was left with $5 in his bank account and was sent to a Paraguayan prison. But that's not all, because from the very start, his life was filled with the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. So, how did one of football's greatest ever players go broke and become a criminal? This is the full story of Ronaldinho.
Las opciones, Ronaldinho que se va solo, Ronaldinho, ¡gol!
El talonamiento, Ronaldinho buscando el gol del Barça, ha marcado el Fútbol Club Barcelona, ha marcado Ronaldinho.
Former Brazilian football star Ronaldinho and his brother are being detained in Paraguay.
On the 21st of March 1980, Ronaldo de Assis Moreira was born, who was later given the nickname Ronaldinho. His family was extremely poor, living in a Brazilian neighborhood that was known for being one of the poorest and roughest areas in the entire country. His father was an ex-pro player who now worked in a shipyard, and his mother was a full-time nurse, which, as you can imagine, didn't bring in much money for the family. But despite this rough start, the family was given hope before Ronaldinho even grew up, because he had a brother named Roberto who was 10 years older than him and was a talented footballer playing for Grêmio. When Ronaldinho was 8 years old, his brother signed a pro contract that saw him earn enough money to support the entire family, and as a part of this contract, he was given a nice house with a pool to live in. But right as life started to look hopeful for the family, things would change quickly. One day when he was still only 8 years old, Ronaldinho Ronaldinho returned home to find his family all in tears. His father suffered a heart attack, fell into the pool, and drowned. This was devastating for the family, and things would only go from bad to worse because Roberto would soon suffer a devastating knee injury, meaning his pro career was in serious doubt and the family's chance at a better life was slipping away. Without a dad, Roberto filled in as the father figure for young Ronaldinho and decided to take him under his wing. He trained him day and night to become a better football player as he saw his little brother had the talent and the potential to be even better than himself. This dynamic between the two brothers was a constant throughout their lives, where Roberto took charge and Ronaldinho would follow blindly, and this is what eventually landed the two brothers in a Paraguayan prison cell, but we'll get to that soon. At 13 years old, playing in the Grêmio Academy, Ronaldinho really announced himself to the country by being part of a 23-0 victory where he scored all 23 goals. This saw him get called up to the U17 World Cup, which he went on to win, becoming the next Brazilian wonder kid overnight. He kept rising the ranks at the Grêmio Academy as he was so clearly a cut above the rest, and when he turned 18, he was finally handed his first professional contract. Ronaldinho spent 3 years at Grêmio, where he got better season after season. He made his debut at 18 years old in 1998, where he played a total of 38 games and picked up 6 goals for the year. In his second season, he played 47 matches and scored 22 goals. And then, in his third and final year with Grêmio, he scored 28 goals in 37 matches. But just goals alone don't represent fully the talent this kid had. Throughout his career, Ronaldinho was simply a joy to watch. He played football with a smile on his face and went out onto the pitch to entertain. During his time at Grêmio, one key moment stands out where he embarrassed the Brazilian legend Dunga with not one, but 2 ridiculous skills in the same match. But this embarrassment would come back to bite Ronaldinho because a bit over a decade later, Dunga would become the national team coach and he wouldn't forget this day. But anyway, with the talent he was showing in Brazil, it was obvious that the European clubs would come knocking for his signature. So in 2001, at 21 years old, Ronaldinho made the move across the world and signed for the French club PSG. Now, this wasn't the oil money PSG we know today. They weren't a strong club at the time, which is why Ronaldinho almost signed for Arsenal, but a failed work permit saw him opt for Paris instead. This move was engineered by his brother, who was now Ronaldinho's agent, and took care of anything important in his life. Ronaldinho started off the season in Paris as a squad player and took some time to settle into the first team, but after the winter break, he came back and scored 4 goals in 4 consecutive matches, landing him a guaranteed starting position. He had a strong first season where he would perform especially well in the big games, but despite his strong start, there was a lot of controversy surrounding the Brazilian wonder kid because the PSG manager claimed that Ronaldinho was too focused on Parisian nightlife rather than football. He loved to party and enjoy life to the fullest, and this would play a part in his eventual downfall. But in the summer of that year, he got the call up to the Brazilian national team to play in the 2002 World Cup, where he was going to announce himself as a superstar. You see, Brazil had a front three that just couldn't be matched. They were called the 3 R's for Ronaldinho, Rivaldo, and Ronaldo Nazario. This attacking trio blitzed the tournament and won the final against Germany. Ronaldinho pitched in with 2 goals, 5 assists, and 1 beautiful free kick against England. Ronaldinho became a world champion at 22 years old and was now a football superstar. So when he returned to Paris, he was handed the number 10 for the 02-03 season, and the same story continued. He showed up in big games with big moments, but wasn't fully focused on football. He finished his second season in Paris with 12 goals in 37 matches, and he dazzled the world with his dribbling ability this year. But this PSG team just wasn't good enough because despite Ronaldinho's superstar status, Paris only managed to finish 11th in the league, which wasn't going to do it for Ronaldinho. So in the summer of 2003, it was time for a change. There were 2 clubs fighting it out for his signature, Man United and Barcelona. But with a bid of 30 million euros, the 23-year-old signed for Barcelona, where he was about to enter the best years of his career. In 2003, Barcelona weren't in a good place, but Ronaldinho can be seen as the catalyst who brought them back to the top of Spanish and European football. Xavi Hernandez says that Ronaldinho started the rise of Barcelona. He was handed the iconic number 10 jersey and scored on his debut. When Ronaldinho arrived at Barcelona, something seemingly changed within him. There were fewer and fewer stories of partying and drinking. It seemed like he was locked in and focused, and this was seriously reflected in his performances on the pitch, because in his first season, he scored 22 goals in 45 games, helping Barcelona to finish second in the league, but more notably, he was instrumental in their victory over Real Madrid that season, which was very significant as Barcelona hadn't beaten them in over 7 years. Something was brewing in the air at Barcelona, and they were ready to conquer football. In his second season at Barcelona, they blitzed the league, winning it for the first time in over 7 years. Ronaldinho was named the FIFA Player of the Year, and things just got even better from there, because in the 05-06 season, Ronaldinho won his second La Liga in a row and his second FIFA Player of the Year award in a row, but he also won the Champions League and the Ballon d'Or, meaning he was quite clearly the best player in the world of football. He had his career best tally of 26 goals in a season, but again, just measuring him on goals would be a disservice to him because he was mesmerizing to watch. He was a world-class creator, feeding Samuel Eto'o all season, but even more than that, nobody could dribble quite like him. He had that Brazilian flair like never seen before. This season also saw Barcelona defeat Real Madrid 3-0, where he picked up 2 of those goals, but what made this day so special was that the Real Madrid fans got up and applauded Ronaldinho, which is only the second time in history that the Real Madrid fans applauded for a Barcelona player. The only other time was for Diego Maradona, and that just shows the magic Ronaldinho had. In the following summer, there was the 2006 World Cup to play, 4 years on from Brazil's victory over Germany, and now Ronaldinho was even better than he was back then, and seemingly so was Brazil. Kaká, Adriano, Ronaldo, and Ronaldinho made the most fearsome front four in world football, but things didn't go as well as they did last time. This Brazil team was unbalanced, top-heavy, meaning they underperformed and saw an early exit in the quarterfinals against France. The Brazilian fans were distraught at such an early exit, but things got a lot worse very soon, because right after the loss, Ronaldinho and Adriano threw a party which really rubbed the Brazilians the wrong way. They ended up tearing down a statue of Ronaldinho, and a lot of love was lost for the legend. This was also strange, as everyone thought Ronaldinho had put his party days behind him to lock in and focus on football, but sadly, it seemed like after winning everything there was to win in football, Ronaldinho lost focus, and this was seen upon his return to Barcelona too. In the 06-07 season, there was nothing really to write home about for Ronaldinho. His performances dropped for the most part, but don't get me wrong, he was still a wizard with the ball. But now the attention in Spain was being put on a younger talent by the name of Lionel Messi. Going into the 07-08 season, things got worse for the now 27-year-old Brazilian, because this year was plagued with injuries. Not to mention his poor habits of partying and lack of fitness were all taking a toll on his performances, and it was looking like his prime years were now behind him. At this time, Pep Guardiola arrived at Barcelona and saw Messi as his golden boy. He thought Ronaldinho was going to be a bad influence on the young superstar, so he wanted to get rid of him. Ronaldinho now had the reputation of being a part-time footballer and full-time party boy, which was reminiscent of his younger years in Paris. So, at 28 years old, Ronaldinho was shipped off to the Serie A to sign for AC Milan, where things would just keep getting worse for him. Ronaldinho landed in Milan for the 08-09 season after he rejected the option to move to Manchester City. He was handed the number 80 shirt because his iconic number 10 jersey was occupied by Clarence Seedorf. This was a Milan team that was just coming to the end of its golden generation, but still had a bit more gas in the tank, which was actually quite similar to Ronaldinho himself. He started strong in his first season, but then he struggled with fitness, and as the season progressed, he was often left on the bench. He was seen to have a lack of of dedication in training due to his party lifestyle, which obviously continued to speed up his decline. His manager, Carlo Ancelotti, said that this decline was not surprising at all. His physical condition was always precarious, but his talent was never in question. Ronaldinho's second season in Milan did not start well at all, but he soon found his form, which was similar to his prime years in Barcelona. Many speculate his effort levels this season were all to try to secure a spot at the 2010 World Cup, and his performances really did warrant that spot. He was moved onto the left wing under the new coach and was on fire. He finished as the league's top assister and finally got the Italian press on his side, with headlines being printed stating Ronaldinho revives his golden years. He had surely done enough this season to get the call-up to the World Cup, but the call-up never came. The Brazilian manager saw Ronaldinho as surplus to the team, but what was interesting about this is the manager at the time was the Brazilian legend Dunga, whom Ronaldinho embarrassed all those years ago. Many believe that this was simply an act of revenge, but anyway, after this summer, Ronaldinho had no more reason to put effort in and reverted back to his partying ways, which caused AC Milan to ship him out of the club in the January transfer window of the 2010-11 season. Ronaldinho signed for Brazilian club Flamengo at 30 years old and made sure to put a party clause in his contract, which stated that he was allowed to party twice a week, regardless of training or matches. After just one season here, Flamengo stopped paying his wages and Ronaldinho canceled his contract at the club. He then moved to Atletico Mineiro just 4 days after leaving Flamengo, where he actually performed very well. He helped them to lift their first ever Copa Libertadores by going on an insane run in the competition and was even awarded the Bola de Oro, which is the award given to the best player in South America. In 2014, he then moved to Mexican club Querétaro, where he spent one season before returning back to Brazil to play for Fluminense in 2015. He signed an 18-month contract at Fluminense, but only lasted 2 months, where he made 9 appearances and really failed to impress, leading to great criticism from the fans and thus a contract termination. After this, he went to play futsal in India for a couple of years before finally announcing his official retirement in 2018. Now, I wish his story ended here. A great but short career at the top and a slow decline till retirement, but unfortunately, that's not how this story ends, because just 2 years after he retired, he got involved in some serious legal issues which got him sent to prison and left with $5 in his bank account. Now, before I tell you about the crimes of Ronaldinho, I need to ask for your help. I put a lot of effort into these videos to make them the best videos possible, and all I ask is that you subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate your support and thank you, but now it's time for the crimes of Ronaldinho. So, how did this happen? Well, as you recall, Roberto was in charge of everything going on in Ronaldinho's life. All Ronaldinho did was play football and party, whilst his big brother handled all their business endeavors, and he was hardly one who played by the rules. In 2019, they had already been fighting legal battles against environmental issues, but they kept getting away with it until they finally were fined for building a fishing platform illegally in a protected area, and when the brothers failed to pay these fines on time, they confiscated 57 of their properties, along with their passports. Then, in March of 2020, Ronaldinho had to make a trip to Paraguay for a promotional event for his new book, but without a passport. His brother got resourceful. He sourced 2 fake passports and got on a plane to Paraguay. Now, maybe if this was you or me, this plan would have worked, but wherever Ronaldinho goes, the media follows, meaning as soon as he landed in Paraguay, he was spotted and arrested instantly. Ronaldinho had no idea what was going on because this was all Roberto's plan, and his lawyer even described him as an idiot. He said he was a child who never grew up, but this was no defense against using a fake passport. So the 2 brothers were sentenced to prison in Paraguay. During the investigation of Ronaldinho, they searched into his bank account to find he only had $5 to his name, and he was actually broke. Now, odds are he had money hidden away somewhere in some offshore accounts, but there's no confirmation of that, so he was legally broke. Ronaldinho and his brother spent a total of 32 days in prison, where he was said to have lost his smile. But at least he had a football in prison and actually took part in the Prison Cup, which was a futsal tournament between the inmates. His team obviously won the competition, but still was a rough month for him. On April 7th, he was let out of prison and allowed to live on house arrest, which he was then eventually released from and is now living life as a free man. Wow, what a roller coaster of a story. What a beautiful football football player. It's just a shame that he couldn't maintain his peak years at Barcelona for longer, but as they say, a candle that burns twice as bright lasts half as long. Now, how do you measure greatness? Is it by goals?
He hits one. Oh, what's it go?
By wins? Maybe by trophies? Or is it by doing all of that whilst being handed an impossible set of cards? Born poor and with a severe health condition, Lionel Messi was never meant to become a professional football player, but somehow he became the greatest of all time. This is not just any story, because this is possibly the greatest story football has ever written. But how on earth did this all happen? This is the full story of Lionel Messi. Lionel Messi was born on the 24th of June 1987, and his beginnings were humble to say the least. He grew up in the sleepy city of Rosario, where his dad worked at a steel factory, but at just 4 years old, Messi already had the ball at his feet. His dad Jorge even started coaching Messi himself, dreaming that he could one day become a star. But no matter how much coaching you have, physique is still the key attribute for athletes, and to put it simply, Messi was too short to be a footballer. As a kid, he wasn't even picked for playground matches until he decided he would play anyway and dribbled the ball so well, he became first pick and earned the nickname The Flea. And it wasn't long before he showed his class on a bigger stage. He joined the Youth Academy of Newell's Old Boys, the city's famous club that was once managed by Marcelo Bielsa and where Diego Maradona finished his career. And Messi's skill on the ball was apparent as his youth team became an unstoppable force, losing just one game in 4 years. But being part of a great youth team doesn't mean you'll go on to have a career as a footballer, with so many young stars failing to even make it at semi-pro level. And it looked like Messi would become one of those outcasts, because once Lionel Messi reached the age of 9, he stopped growing. And as a youth player, if you're short, you might as well give up, because no club is going to take a chance on you. Countless players have been cast aside because of their height, and so when Messi visited a hospital to find out what was wrong with him, tears were in his eyes as he asked the doctor, "Will I grow?" The doctor had diagnosed him with growth hormone deficiency, meaning he quite literally wasn't producing the chemicals needed for his body to grow. Luckily enough, he had insurance to cover the treatment, but this would only last for a short period of time because the failing Argentinian economy meant the insurance company would eventually refuse to keep paying for the growth hormones. To make matters worse, his father couldn't afford to pay for the treatment even after spending the family savings on it. They tried asking Newell's Old Boys, but they were also absolutely broke. Desperately searching for someone to pay for his treatment, Messi went on trial with River Plate, who were impressed by the boy, but not enough to pay for the treatment. So, as the years went by, young Lionel was losing all hope until he was thrown a lifeline by the one club who would truly believe in the boy. On September 17, 2000, a 13-year-old Lionel Messi took a flight across the Atlantic, which was one that would change his life forever. He was traveling to Barcelona for a trial with the club's youth team, but at the time, he still wasn't even 5 feet tall. But when he got his feet on the ball, the youth coaches were in utter disbelief. After just 2 minutes, the scouts knew they had to sign him. When this was taken to the board, some members were not in favor of it. The idea of paying for a kid's expensive hormone treatment seemed like too big of a risk, but others were so desperate to get him that they wrote a basic contract on a napkin for Messi to sign. And just like that, at 13 years old, Lionel Messi was officially a part of La Masia and was given access to the growth hormone treatment he so desperately needed, and his story was only just getting started. As a foreigner in the youth setup, Messi wasn't actually allowed to play in the team and could only play in friendly matches and local Catalan competitions, so he struggled to integrate with the rest of the team and suffered from homesickness. He was so shy that his teammates called him El Mudo, which means the mute one. But they knew just how good he was, and when one coach said, "Don't tackle him too hard because he might break him," the player said, "Don't worry, we can't catch him." And finally, after a year at La Masia, the Spanish Football Federation allowed him to play in all competitions as he became part of the second legendary youth team of his career, the Baby Dream Team, with Fabregas and Piqué. This youth team went on to win the treble of the league and both cups, with Messi as the league's top scorer. People from all over Europe were taking notice, and Messi's career nearly took a very different path as Premier League club Arsenal tried to sign him. But while Arsenal did manage to sign his teammate Cesc Fabregas, the London side couldn't work out a deal for Messi, meaning he remained in Catalunya. By the age of 16, he was promoted to train with the first team during an international break, and from the very start, he ran rings around the senior team players, with Barcelona's first team players just kicking and fouling him to try to avoid being ridiculed by Messi's insane skills, with one of the players describing Messi as an alien. and even the big star Ronaldinho went as far as to say that Messi would go on to be an even better player than himself. But at this time, Messi was still much weaker than his opponents, so Barcelona played him in as many reserve and youth team matches as possible so that he could catch up on his development and build up his strength. Until finally, on the 4th of February 2004, Messi signed his first professional contract, earning him around 20,000 euros per week. Not bad for a poor Argentinian teenager. Now, at this time, Barcelona weren't an all-conquering force. In fact, at the start of the 2004-05 season, they hadn't won the Liga or any other major trophy for 6 years and were in a bit of a mess, with lots of boardroom drama and several key players also leaving the club. So, it was time for a new era. Messi made his competitive debut for Barcelona on the 16th of October 2004, coming off the substitutes bench to replace Deco in the 82nd minute of a match against Espanyol, making him the third youngest player to represent Barcelona and the youngest to represent them in almost a century. He would get another appearance off the bench in Barcelona's next game against Osasuna, and a couple of months later, Messi made his Champions League debut, playing the full 90 minutes in a group stage game against Shakhtar Donetsk. And while Messi didn't make a La Liga starting lineup that season, he did come off the bench 7 times, even scoring his first goal for Barcelona in the final minute of a 2-0 victory over Albacete, making him Barcelona's youngest ever goal scorer. Barcelona also won La Liga that season, handing the then 17-year-old his first winner's medal. That summer, he joined Argentina for the Under-20 World Cup and was voted player of the tournament as he scored 6 goals to help Argentina win the Under-20 World Cup. That summer also saw him make his senior debut for Argentina, but things did not go as planned. Messi was subbed on in the 64th minute of a friendly against Hungary, and within just 1 minute, he was handed a red card for swinging at a defender. This marked the start of the biggest roller coaster journey of his career, as the Argentinian national team is the story that almost broke him so many times before he finally saw success. But let's not rush. As he returned to Spain, now 18 years old, he signed a new senior team contract that was 5 years long, as Barcelona knew they had a gem on their hands. And that 2005-06 season was when Messi really started to appear for the Barcelona team. But he wasn't the false nine he's known for today. Rather, head coach Frank Rijkaard played Messi on the right-hand side of the attack in a 4-3-3 formation, with Ronaldinho on the left and Samuel Eto'o up top. And from October, Messi was a regular starter for Barcelona in both La Liga and the Champions League, where he got his first Champions League goal against Panathinaikos in November and scored 4 goals in 3 games in La Liga in January. But his first full season was cut short, as Messi tore a muscle in March and missed the end of the season, where Barcelona won La Liga and the Champions League, which saw Messi pick up medals in both whilst still a teenager. Thankfully, though, Messi recovered in time for the 2006 World Cup in Germany, where he scored Argentina's 6th goal of a 6-0 win over Serbia and Montenegro, making him the youngest player to represent and to score for Argentina at a World Cup. But unfortunately, they did get knocked out in the quarterfinals against Germany. Messi returned to Barcelona for the 06-07 season with his first appearance in a final, albeit just the Supercopa de España, which Barcelona won, and he then played the full 90 minutes in 8 of Barcelona's opening 9 La Liga matches as he became more and more important to the team. But in November, he had another setback, fracturing his metatarsal. But when he came back, he did something that nobody could ignore. In the El Clasico against Real Madrid, Messi calmly passed the ball into the net to equalize in the 11th minute. Madrid then scored again before Messi smashed the ball home to level the scores again on 28 minutes. Then, after Real scored a third, Messi, in the last minute of the game, completed his hat-trick. Real Madrid 3, Lionel Messi 3. He became the first player in 12 years to score a hat-trick in El Clasico. And by now, surely everyone knew his name. Messi scored 17 goals in all competitions that season and 16 in the season after, and his performances, including solo dribbles like this one against Real Zaragoza, saw both Ronaldinho and Maradona himself call him their successor. But Barcelona as a whole were struggling on the pitch, and in 2007-08, they finished in 3rd place, 18 points behind Real Madrid and even 10 points behind Villarreal. And despite Messi scoring this incredible goal, Barcelona also lost to Getafe in the Copa del Rey, so Frank Rijkaard left Barcelona, and come the next season, Lionel Messi was quite literally going to change football. Now, as a club in search of a coach, Barcelona probably could have chosen any head coach in the world, but instead, they hired from within, promoting their 37-year-old B-team coach to the top job. And that man was none other than Pep Guardiola, who decided to completely rebuild Barcelona's team to fit his football philosophy of tiki-taka short passes. He sold star players Deco and Ronaldinho, and instead decided to build his team around Xavi, Andres Iniesta, and Lionel Messi, who he gave Ronaldinho's number 10 shirt to. He saw so much potential in young Lionel that one of the main reasons for removing Ronaldinho from the squad was his fear that the Brazilian party lifestyle would influence Messi in the wrong ways. That summer, Messi also went off to play in the Olympics in Beijing, so he joined an Argentina all-star squad including Riquelme, Angel Di Maria, and Sergio Aguero, with Messi the standout player among all these stars, registering 2 goals and 3 assists, including an assist for Di Maria to score the only goal of the gold medal match against Nigeria. Messi came out after the game saying this gold medal was a dream of his and that you can only do something like that once in your life, but little did Messi know the life he had ahead of him. Now, Barcelona actually lost the first game of that season to City Numancia, but soon they would get going, and after a while, Barcelona became an unstoppable force, scoring 105 goals as they cruised to the La Liga title, with Messi, Beto, and Thierry Henry proving formidable with 100 goals between them in all competitions. Messi got 38 of those in his first mega haul of his career, proving Pep was right to have such faith in him. And while he mainly played on the right wing, Pep did choose one important game to test him as a false 9, and that was the league game against Real Madrid, where Messi scored twice, got an assist, and Barcelona sank Real Madrid 6-2. In the Copa del Rey, Messi scored a hat-trick against Atletico Madrid, and then finally played in his first major final for Barcelona against Athletic Bilbao, where Barcelona won 4-1 with Messi getting a goal and an assist. But with 2 major trophies already in the bag, Lionel Messi somehow already had his sights on a treble, because if we take a look at the Champions League, he was quite literally on fire. Messi scored 9 goals, making him the youngest top goal scorer in the competition's history, as Barcelona reached the final, where they played Manchester United, who were led by star striker Cristiano Ronaldo and had won the competition the season before. But as the 2 teams walked onto the pitch, it was like men against boys, as Barcelona danced around Manchester United with Eto'o scoring and Messi finishing the game off 2-0 with an unlikely header. Just like that, Barcelona became the first Spanish side in history to win a treble, and with these victories, they were also allowed to play in the Club World Cup, Supercopa de España, and the UEFA Super Cup, which they won all 3 of, making it a sextuple for the year of 2009. Now, remember, Messi is still only 22 years old here, but he was head and shoulders above everyone else and won the FIFA World Player of the Year award and his first Ballon d'Or, which would start the decade-long rivalry between Messi and Ronaldo. But for the time being, Messi was going to storm ahead as he was approaching arguably the peak of his entire career. With Messi's Ballon d'Or in 2009, he was already going to go down as one of the greatest players of all time. But over the next 3 years, he was going to go from just a footballing great to already in the conversation with Pelé and Maradona. Barcelona began the 2009-10 season unstoppable yet again, with Messi scoring his 100th goal for the club against Sevilla in January, and this formed part of the goal-scoring haul in La Liga, where Messi scored 16 goals in 11 back-to-back games, including back-to-back hat-tricks against Valencia and Real Zaragoza, including this magnificent effort. He finished the season with 34 goals in 35 La Liga matches to win his first European Golden Shoe award, and scored 47 goals in all competitions, as Barcelona won La Liga with 99 points, but missed out on the Champions League after losing to Jose Mourinho's Inter Milan in the semi-finals. Come the summer, Lionel Messi was walking into another World Cup, but this time he knew he was the man who would make the difference. Argentina topped their group before coming up against Mexico in the round of 16, until they yet again faced Germany in the quarterfinals. Unfortunately, history repeated itself, as just like 4 years prior, Germany knocked Messi's Argentina out of the World Cup as his side was sent home. Germany had become a bit of a cursed team for Argentina to play against, and it would only get worse from here in the coming tournaments. But for now, heading back to the 2010-11 season, Barcelona made a bold call as they decided to sell striker Zlatan Ibrahimovic to Inter Milan and instead go all in on Messi as the team's number 9, although he was really playing as a false 9 in a position he pretty much invented himself. The season started with a horror tackle on Messi in a match against Atletico Madrid, and it was the first thought that he had broken his ankle and would be out for the rest of the year. But luckily, scans revealed it was just some ligament damage, so Messi only missed 2 La Liga games. So now, with Messi playing regularly in his false 9 position, the goals just kept coming, as he would go on a run of 14 goals in 8 games, with the only game he didn't score in being El Clasico. This was actually Jose Mourinho's first El Clasico at Madrid, as the new era of La Liga was truly underway. Despite not scoring in this fixture, he got 2 assists as Barcelona sent Real Madrid to the shops with a 5-0 demolition of their rivals. Come December, and Messi was handed a second Ballon d'Or, and come the end of the season and it was the 5-0 win over Real Madrid, that had put Barcelona in the driving seat for yet another La Liga title. As the year turned, we witnessed peak La Liga as we saw 4 El Clasico games in the span of 3 weeks to quite literally determine the treble. Ronaldo and Real Madrid managed to clinch the Copa del Rey, Messi's men stormed La Liga, and in the Champions League semi-final, Messi and Barcelona were the ones who came out on top as Messi scored twice in the first leg, including this solo spectacular as Barcelona won 3-1 on aggregate to set up another Champions League final against Manchester United. Just like the Argentina-Germany curse, there seemed to be a curse Manchester United had with this Barcelona side because Messi scored in the 54th minute to put Barcelona in control as they won 3-1 to grab another Champions League title. Messi scored an insane 53 goals for Barcelona that season, but believe it or not, these numbers were going to look bad compared to what was coming soon. Barcelona kicked off the 11-12 season looking like they were playing FIFA on easy mode as they won the Supercopa against Real Madrid 5-4 with Messi scoring or assisting every single goal. By mid-November, Messi had already scored 3 hat-tricks in La Liga. In the Champions League round of 16, he put 5 past Bayer Leverkusen, and he was just putting teams to bed week after week. It came as no surprise that he lifted his 3rd Ballon d'Or in December of 2011, and throughout the entire 11-12 season, he scored 3 or more goals in 12 different games. Towards the end of the 11-12 season, Messi even went on a 12-game run where he got 31 goal contributions. That's genuinely almost 3 per game. Messi finished the season with 73 goals in all competitions, including 50 in La Liga. But somehow, despite this alien level of output, Barcelona did not win La Liga, and frankly, they weren't even close, because Ronaldo and Real Madrid finished 9 points clear of them. And they didn't even win the Champions League because they were knocked out by Chelsea in the semi-finals, meaning all Messi had to show for his 73-goal season was the Copa del Rey. Following this season, Pep Guardiola stepped down as manager, meaning this first era of Lionel Messi's career was over. The questions arose, was Messi's talent just a byproduct of Pep's system? Would he manage to maintain his world-class level in a new team? And was this the peak of Lionel Messi? Well, as I'm sure you know, Lionel Messi's story was far from over. As the 11-12 season came to an end, Messi and his childhood sweetheart Antonella Roccuzzo announced she was pregnant with their first child, and like any goal scorer, Messi celebrated by putting the ball under his shirt when he scored against Ecuador, and when Thiago was born that November, Newell's Old Boys wouldn't make the same mistake they did with Messi, as within hours of his birth, the club sent him a club membership. But now looking at Barcelona, with Guardiola gone, Barca tried the same trick once again by promoting from within and selecting Pep's assistant Tito Villanueva as the club's new head coach, and unsurprisingly, Messi just kept doing what he always does, and in fact started the 2012-13 season on fire as he finished the year of 2012 breaking the record for the most goals scored in a calendar year, with 91 being that number. To put into perspective how obscene this is, in the 21st century, the second highest goal scored is 69 in one year, that being done by both Ronaldo and Robert Lewandowski. Obviously, Lionel Messi picked up his 4th Ballon d'Or in 2012, making him a 4-time winner by just the age of 25 years old. In terms of Ballon d'Ors, he was officially the greatest of all time. But this is when Cristiano Ronaldo would start to have a thing or two to say about that. After Real Madrid's title last year, Barcelona were back in business with a record-breaking 100-point victory, finishing 15 points clear of Real Madrid. But come the end of the season, Messi picked up some injuries and missed key games in the Champions League against Bayern Munich, meaning Barcelona lost by a 7-goal margin over 2 legs. The feeling in the club was that, unlike the days of Pep Guardiola where the team played tiki-taka, now it was just Messi FC, where they relied too much on him to produce. Despite this, Villanova had done an incredible job in La Liga, but it was even more incredible as he had been suffering from cancer, and his assistant had taken over as coach for part of the season. So, in that summer, Villanova resigned and Tata Martino took charge of Barcelona. But unfortunately, things were not going to go smoothly for Messi in the coming season. Messi faced both on the pitch and off the pitch challenges throughout the 13-14 season, as he was accused of tax evasion and had tax investigations hanging over his head, with even the threat of prison. Messi did begin the season well, but come October, he saw a very unusual goal drought, which came coupled with injuries, meaning he would not score another goal until February 2013. That December also saw the Ballon d'Or fall in the hands of Cristiano Ronaldo, meaning his historic run of 4 in a row was stopping there. Come the tail end of the season, Messi was back, even scoring an El Clasico hat-trick as Barcelona beat their rivals 4-3, condemning them to a third-place finish in La Liga. But unfortunately, Barcelona didn't do much better, finishing second behind Atletico Madrid, who also knocked them out of the Champions League quarterfinals, meaning Messi finished the season with no major trophies. But things would just go from bad to worse for Lionel as he headed to Brazil to compete in the World Cup. After such a disappointing season for his standards, he looked to the World Cup as the chance to save his season. But more importantly for him, it meant something to his entire country, who loved football more than anything, and they had been starved of a World Cup since the days of Diego Maradona. If Messi wanted to go down as the greatest player of all time, he needed that World Cup win. He scored 4 goals in the group stage, they got through to the round of 16 and the quarterfinals with 1-0 victories before facing Netherlands in the semi-finals. This game went to penalties. Messi converted and Argentina had done enough to make their way to the World Cup final. The only issue was that, for the 3rd time in a row, Messi was facing Germany in the World Cup, and this time things went no differently. Mario Götze scored in extra time to secure Germany's world title and sent Messi home with nothing but pain, anger, and regret. Was this all he could do with Argentina? The little magician was starting to lose hope. Now, this video has taken me a long time to make, so before we continue, I just wanted to ask if you would consider subscribing. Only 5% of the people who watch these videos have actually subscribed, so if you could just check, I'd really appreciate it. Now, after arguably the toughest season of his career so far, he returned to Barcelona to find a new hope in the squad. You see, last season they had signed a young promising winger by the name of Neymar, and this season they'd signed the best striker from the Premier League in Luis Suarez, meaning there was a new front three in town. And with this attacking trio in place, the 2014-15 season was electric to say the least. Messi scored 5 hat-tricks in La Liga in 2014-15, with the first of those coming against Sevilla, making him the all-time top goal scorer in La Liga. And while Messi mainly played on the right wing of the MSN trio, the huge goal-scoring threat of Suarez and Neymar meant opponents couldn't just focus on trying to stop Messi, who scored for fun, hitting an insane 43 goals in La Liga alone and 58 in all competitions, as Barcelona won La Liga and the Copa del Rey, where Messi scored this phenomenal effort in the final against Athletic Bilbao. And then in the Champions League, Barcelona showed their dominance against Manchester City, winning at the Etihad. They then crushed PSG in the quarterfinal and Bayern Munich in the semi-final, with Messi getting a double in the first leg to win that tie before facing Juventus in the final, which Barcelona won 3-1 to win the treble yet again. MSN bagged 122 goals between them, and Messi won his 5th Ballon d'Or, and at that time, he also had his 2nd child, so things were really flying for Messi. But despite all his club successes, things were different for his national team, who traveled to Chile that summer for the Copa America. And once again, Messi put on some inspired performances as Argentina's captain and won the Golden Ball as Argentina cruised to the final, where they faced the hosts Chile. But Messi couldn't find the breakthrough, and the game finished goalless and went to penalties. Messi scored his spot kick, but 2 of his teammates missed, so Chile won the shootout and the Copa America. Messi was still in search of that major international senior trophy, and the pressure was starting to show, as people were saying that without such a trophy, he couldn't be considered the greatest. Come the following season, Suarez was the top scorer for Barcelona, as Messi missed several games with torn knee ligament, but he was proving just as important as a creator, getting 2 assists in the Copa del Rey final, and Barcelona looked to be cruising to another La Liga title until a loss to Real Madrid derailed them, and they lost 3 in a row. But in a must-win game against Betis, Messi got 2 clutch assists to win the game, so Barcelona secured the La Liga title by a single point. And in the 2016-17 season, Messi was right back among the goals, and when Messi scores, he usually scores twice, getting 13 braces in La Liga alone, as he went on to win the European Golden Boot with 54 goals in all competitions. But that wasn't enough to win the title, as Barcelona finished 2nd, only lifting the Copa del Rey that year. The frightening MSN had seemed to be getting overshadowed by the BBC of Real Madrid, who had just won back-to-back Champions Leagues and La Liga too. That summer saw yet another Copa America final for Argentina, where they faced Chile yet again, and just like deja vu, the game went to penalties. But this time, Lionel Messi missed his spot kick, handing the title to Chile through his own mistake. This was truly a low point in Messi's career, as he came out after the game announcing his retirement from international football. He had enough. He couldn't take the pain of defeat anymore. But of course, he later came out of retirement as Argentina were not far off from the greatest years in the nation's entire history. And if only Lionel Messi knew just how well this was going to turn out for him. Messi returned for the 16-17 season, signing a new contract at the club. Neymar, on the other hand, decided he wanted to get out of Messi's shadow and made the move to PSG. The mastermind behind MSN, Luis Enrique, also left the club as Barcelona appointed a new head coach in Ernesto Valverde. But none of this stopped Messi from doing what he does best, as he scored 45 goals, including 4 in one match against Eibar, as Barcelona strolled to another La Liga title and also won the Copa del Rey. The 2018-19 season was almost a repeat of that, as Barcelona again cruised through La Liga yet again to give Messi his 10th La Liga title and his first one as club captain of Barcelona. People often argue that this year was the third peak of Lionel Messi, the first being in 2012, the second in 2015, and the third in 2019, because as much as he was great in the great Barcelona teams of old, this team was not that. He was carrying this team on his shoulders, and if not for an impossible semi-final comeback from Liverpool, he was going to carry this side to another Champions League. His performances in the season were so great that they did in fact land him another Ballon d'Or, making that 6 to him and 5 to Ronaldo at this point. But come the 2019-20 season, and things were going to get really tough for Lionel. This was a tough year in Barcelona, as they finished second in La Liga and absolutely embarrassed themselves in the Champions League quarterfinal, losing 8-2 to Bayern Munich. That season, Messi only scored 31 goals, which for any regular player would be incredible and the highlight of their career. But for Messi, it was his lowest goal count in more than a decade. And that summer, Messi revealed he had a long-standing disagreement with Barcelona's president, and he demanded to leave the club, even activating a clause in his contract that would allow him to leave for free. But the club denied this and sought legal advice, so in the end, Messi decided to fulfill his final year of his contract, and by doing so, he broke the club record for most appearances. But by this time, Barcelona's financial problems were really catching up with them, and Messi's huge wages were part of the issue. And in 2020-21, Barcelona only finished third in La Liga, and by this point, Messi had decided to stay at Camp Nou and even agreed a 50% pay cut in order to stay there. But as his contract had already expired, Barcelona couldn't re-sign him as he was a free agent. Barcelona's financial mismanagement meant La Liga rules prevented them from offering Messi a contract. So basically, due to accounting reasons, Barcelona's greatest ever player left the club for nothing, and an era of football history came to an end. While Messi was still deciding his club future, Argentina were playing in the Copa America in a tournament hosted by their biggest rivals, Brazil, who they actually came against in the final. Di Maria scored the only goal of the game to finally give Messi his first major international trophy, and doing so as the captain of his country, which finally allowed him to silence the doubters who said this would never be possible. That victory pretty much sealed his 7th Ballon d'Or, although controversy rose on this one, as some believed Robert Lewandowski was a more deserving winner. And of course, Lionel Messi chose his next destination to be PSG, where he reunited with Neymar and met a new friend in Mbappé, as this was supposed to be an even better version of the MSN of years gone by. But the Copa America win took its toll on Messi, and he started his time at PSG with some fitness issues that meant he couldn't hit the ground running, and he only played in 3 of PSG's first 9 games and didn't score his first Ligue 1 goal until November, although he had scored a few Champions League goals by that point. But Messi was signed to win the Champions League, and with an attack of Mbappé, Messi and Neymar, or M&M, fans expected some sweet things, but it was a season of struggle for Messi, who couldn't get a string of games together due to fitness, flu, quarantine, or other issues, so he finished the season with just 11 goals in all competitions, but he did get 15 assists as PSG did what they always do, and won Ligue 1 without breaking a sweat. But the Champions League was another matter, as PSG crashed out to Real Madrid in the round of 16. The first year in Paris was classified as a failure by the extremely high standards placed upon Messi. That summer, Argentina played the Finalissima, where the champions of Europe and champions of South America face off to see who was the best in the world, and Messi got 2 assists in that match as Argentina thrashed Italy 3-0, and so expectations were rising for the World Cup at the end of 2022, and Messi started the 22-23 season in much better form than the season before, getting 12 goals and 14 assists for PSG, who, unsurprisingly, dominated Ligue 1 and were clear at the top of the table by the time the season took a break for the Qatar 2022 World Cup. This was it. the tournament was probably going to be Messi's final chance to win big with Argentina. This team was finally winning things. They had a coach who set the team up to win, and the mentality was completely different. But Argentina shocked the world by losing their first game of the tournament 2-1 to massive underdog Saudi Arabia in a game considered one of the biggest upsets in World Cup history. So the pressure was really on when Argentina played Mexico in their second match. If they lost, they would be eliminated. But on 64 minutes, Messi broke the deadlock, and he later got an assist as Argentina won 2-0. In the third group game, they beat Poland to reach the knockout stage, and in the round of 16, Messi struck again to beat Australia 2-1 to set up a game against the Netherlands in the quarterfinals. And this game, well, this was one of the most brutal games in football history as fouls, fights, and tackles flew in, and the referee gave 18 yellow cards and 1 red card, and it wasn't surprising that there was a penalty, which Messi scored for Argentina to put them 2-0 up and seemingly through to the next round. But Wout Weghorst got 1 goal back before scoring in the 11th minute of injury time to take the game to extra time, and then the game went to penalties. Netherlands missed their first 2 kicks, but Messi coolly sent the goalie the wrong way to give Argentina the advantage, and they never looked back, winning the shootout and booking their place in the semis against Croatia. Messi getting a goal and an assist in a 3-0 win to set up the World Cup final against France. This felt like the season final of the Messi story. Could he finally do it? Could he lift the World Cup? But if this was the finale of the movie, Kylian Mbappé was definitely the villain trying to stop this from happening, because this game was pure cinema. As the game began, Messi scored from the penalty spot to give Argentina the advantage, which Di Maria doubled, but 2 goals in 2 minutes from Mbappé took the game to extra time, meaning for the second time in his career, the World Cup final went past the 90th minute. Messi scored again, but a late goal by Mbappé leveled the scores, and with just seconds left on the clock, France were through on goal and would have sealed their World Cup victory if not for the heroics of Emiliano Martinez, but this meant the game went to penalties. This was it. The penalty shootout began. Messi, goal. Mbappe, goal. Dybala, goal. Coman, saved. Paredes, goal. Tchouaméni, missed. Montiel, goal. Argentina and Lionel Messi had just become the champions of the world, and Lionel Messi had completed football. Messi has since gone on to move to Inter Miami, where he still plays his football today in what is one of the smartest financial moves in football history, as he's been given the rights to one day own his own MLS team, just like Beckham did with Inter Miami. He's also picked up an 8th Ballon d'Or, as he's further cemented himself as the greatest football player of all time. And to be honest, it's hard to argue he's not. 44 major trophies, 800 plus goals, and 350 plus assists. Lionel Messi, you legend. Now, every year, 1.4 million boys are born in Brazil, but on average, only 5 make it to top-flight football in Europe. Those are odds of 1 in 270,000. But what if I told you Rodrigo had different odds? Because from before he was even born, he had no choice but to become a football superstar, as his father engineered his entire life to make sure he becomes one of the greatest players of this generation. But still, this wouldn't come easy, as time and time again they risked it all just for the shot of success, but somehow, every time, the odds fell in Rodrigo's favor. But was this possible? How did a boy who was forced to become a football player become one of the biggest stars in the entire sport? He was set to be born in Sao Paulo on Christmas Day 2000, except he wasn't, because his father, a 16-year-old Eric Goes, had different ideas as he was planning his son's destiny before he was even born. You see, if you're born at the end of the year, you'll be the youngest player in your football team, and with every other kid being bigger and older than you, it's hard to stand out and get noticed by scouts, meaning your football career could be over before it has even begun. But Eric knew this, as he was a football player himself, and he was on a mission to make his son a great football player, so he told Rodrigo's young mother Denise to wait, and avoided taking her to the hospital because Rodrigo needed to be born in January to give him the best shot at football success. He told her, just keep him in there for a few more days, and he was counting down the seconds till New Year. And on January 9th, 2001, he came into this world with his father already mapping out a path to his greatness. Even as a toddler, Rodrigo would spend all day playing football, and by the age of 3, he was already shooting with his weaker foot, copying Neymar's haircuts, and having Real Madrid birthday cakes whilst his dad would tell him that words had power, so Rodrigo would say to himself out loud over and over again, "I'm going to play for Brazil, I'm going to play for Real Madrid, I'm going to win the Champions League, I'm going to play in the World Cup." Now, at the same time, Rodrigo's dad was trying himself to make it as a professional footballer in Brazil's Serie B, so he knew how hard it was to make it in a country where every kid wants to be the next Pelé, Ronaldo Nazario, or Neymar, and there are so many players with unbelievable skills who end up just missing out on their dreams, so because of this, he was tough on Rodrigo, especially when it came to football. Eric Ghost would be the referee for his son's futsal games, and instead of being an overprotective dad, he did the opposite, allowing Rodrigo's opponents to foul him all match long without giving a single free kick, and those opponents knew this, so they would kick Rodrigo all game long. But it was clear to see that everything his dad had been doing was paying off, because a fire had been lit inside Rodrigo, and he was in a rush to make it pro, so much so that at just 6 years old, he had got into the van of a random stranger who promised him the chance to play in a tournament, leading to his family to think he got kidnapped. Now, at this time, Rodrigo's dad's career was starting to take off, so Rodrigo would only see him at the weekends, and his dad would do his best when he was playing for Mirassol in the Sao Paulo State Championship. He took Rodrigo to all his games, including one match when his dad faced Neymar, and since Rodrigo had idolized him and watched so many of his games, he was giving his dad pre-game tactics to be able to defend against Neymar. But after the match, he got to meet his idol at Santos, and that was a life-changing moment for the boy. Santos was a club of legends, not just Neymar, but Pelé, Robinho, Ganso, and they believe every generation has a new legend, a new thunderbolt that strikes Santos, and people would soon believe that the next thunderbolt was Rodrigo. But at that time, he didn't play for Santos, as his academy, where he had been playing since he was 8 years old, was actually part of Sao Paulo, who are one of Santos's main rivals and Brazil's biggest clubs, and surprisingly didn't let youth players play competitive games until they were 15. But as you know, Rodrigo can't wait, because in Brazil, if you don't get spotted early, you can miss out on your dreams, so there was no choice. Rodrigo had to leave Sao Paulo and join local rival Santos, which was a full 2 hours away. But still, aged just 9, he turned up to a training session for older kids and blew everyone away. So he started training with Santos 3 times a week, but still kept training at Sao Paulo too, and this gave him a mad routine of training, school, and futsal for 5 tough years. Rodrigo would only see his dad, his hero and mentor, during the summer vacation, but soon this would all start to pay off, as Rodrigo would start catching the attention of watchers from all over the world, including sportswear giants Nike, who spotted him at a tournament in New York and signed him as their youngest ever affiliated athlete at the age of just 11. But it wasn't just Nike who took notice, because it wouldn't be long until he caught the attention of Brazil too, because Rodrigo was preparing for the main stage. As aged just 16, he had the chance to train with Santos' his first team, and soon found himself on the substitutes bench with fans chanting for him to come on and make his debut. And while he only played 1 minute that day, it didn't take long for Rodrigo to become a regular player, skipping school at the age of 17 to score goals in the Copa Libertadores, including 1 goal against Uruguayan club Nacional, where Rodrigo dribbled past 2 players and put it past the keeper in what he called one of the most beautiful goals he has ever scored, and that goal would make him the youngest Santos player to score in the competition. Now, by this point, he was already being compared to Neymar, and even chose to switch his shirt number to number 11, just like him. And even more interestingly, at this time, the big European clubs started circling around Rodrigo, and he had the chance to join Neymar, as he had offers from Barcelona and Paris Saint-Germain. But this is where Rodrigo decided to risk it all to chase his dreams. Rodrigo was close to signing for one of those clubs for an absolutely incredible offer, but when most players would sign without hesitation, he made the decision to wait, holding off on signing the contract because he thought back to the mantra he told himself in the mirror every day as a kid: "I'm going to play for Brazil, and more importantly, I'm going to play for Real Madrid." So even though his dad was saying, "You have to take what you're given," Rodrigo took a wild gamble and told his dad to give him 1 more game before deciding his future, saying he was going to score a hat-trick, and that would be enough to convince Real Madrid to come knocking. And believe it or not, he scored in the 22nd, 26th,
Rodrigo domina, Rodrigo faz a finta, Rodrigo chega, pé direito, bateu, Rodrigo!
and 31st minutes of the match,
Rodrigo, pro Rodrigo, gol!
completing a hat-trick in 9 minutes. He got home and asked his dad if Real Madrid had called, but his dad said, "Nope, nothing." Rodrigo was devastated and just spent the next day sulking at home. But when his dad came home that night, he had a surprise for his son. He had a Real Madrid shirt with Rodrigo written on the back, as his dad had got a call right after the game and secretly met Real Madrid to secure a deal, but didn't want to tell his son until it was all confirmed. But this now meant that aged just 17, for a fee of 45 million euros, Rodrigo was Real Madrid's latest signing, and his dreams would finally start to come true. But as much as he says the day of his Real Madrid press conference was the happiest day of his life, little did he know all the struggles he was going to face in the Spanish capital, but ultimately the glory he would achieve. But he's not the only person who dreams of glory, because whilst Rodrigo dreams of the Bernabeu, I dream of being the biggest football YouTuber, so subscribe to help me get there. But now as Rodrigo arrived in Madrid, he was so young that his dad was actually a similar age as some of the Real Madrid players. So he started calling guys like Luka Modric father, and just like his dad had done for the previous 17 years, Modric kept pushing Rodrigo to be better. In September 2019, Rodrigo made his debut for Real Madrid, coming on in the 71st minute against Osasuna, and not long after, he controlled a long ball from Casemiro and produced some magic to score his first goal for Real Madrid, becoming the first player born in the 21st century to score a goal for the club. And when I say it didn't take him long, it actually only took just 93 seconds. And soon, he would make his mark on the Champions League too, when in November, against Galatasaray, he scored his first Champions League goal just 4 minutes into the match, then would score again 2 minutes later for the fastest ever double in the Champions League. And when Real Madrid won a penalty a few minutes later, he might have scored the fastest ever Champions League hat-trick, but Sergio Ramos took the spot kick instead. But still, Rodrigo kept going and scored right at the end of the game to complete his hat-trick, making him the second youngest ever player to score a hat-trick in the Champions League. Following his early success in Madrid, it wouldn't be long until another one of his dreams would come true, because one night he was woken up to screaming downstairs. He rushed down wondering what was going on, and his family told him he had just been called up to play for the Brazilian national team, meaning he was going to play for his country and play alongside his inspiration and idol, Neymar. And he had achieved the second of his mantras, "I will play for Brazil." But after that bright start, Rodrigo began to struggle at Madrid, scoring only 3 more goals in his debut season and playing less than 1,000 minutes in La Liga in 2020-21 as he suffered from a hamstring injury. At this point, some Real Madrid fans even started labeling Rodrigo as a flop and suggesting that he should be sold. They saw the signings of Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. as gambles on young players with potential and said Real should have signed seasoned pros instead. And to make things worse, Rodrigo simply didn't fit into Real Madrid's attack. His best position, where he played for Santos, was on the left wing, and in his entire time in Brazil, he only played on the right wing 4 times. He said, "Since I was a kid, I started on the left, and it's natural for me to play better in this position." But with Vinicius Jr. locking down the left wing, and with mega money signing Eden Hazard also competing for the position, Rodrigo was forced to play on his weaker side, and his performances slumped in Zinedine Zidane's final year at Real. But even under Carlo Ancelotti, his struggles continued going into the start of the 21-22 season. But then, Rodrigo started to hit some form, with 7 goal contributions in the final 8 games of the league season, showing glimpses of what a player he could be and helping push Real Madrid over the line to the La Liga trophy. But it was in the Champions League where Rodrigo really made a name for himself. Real Madrid had a tough campaign, narrowly beating out PSG in the round of 16, then roll on to the quarterfinals, and they came up against Chelsea, where they won the first leg 3-1, but found themselves 3-0 down in the second leg, meaning they were losing 4-3 on aggregate. But it was at this point that Carlo Ancelotti turned to the substitutes bench in the 78th minute and told Rodrigo to simply change the game. Moments after he came onto the pitch, he received a pass from Luka Modric and shot inside the keeper's near post to level the scores and take the game to extra time. And Real managed to get another goal in extra time to send them to the semi-finals, where they faced Manchester City. They lost the first leg 4-3 and were down a goal in the second leg, so needed 2 goals to force extra time. And once again, Rodrigo was called upon to change the game. But the game was already done, with the TV screen giving Manchester City a 99% chance of winning the game, and Real Madrid a 1% chance. But with 40 seconds of normal time to go, Rodrigo scored, and with 6 minutes of added time, they had some hope. And when the cross came in, Rodrigo jumped to meet it and scored a second of the game to level the scores. And the rest is history, as Real Madrid went on to win the Champions League, and Rodrigo ticked off the third of his dreams, winning the Champions League. and a few months later, he would tick off the final one as he played for Brazil at the 2022 World Cup. But while this should have been the peak of his career, it didn't go to plan, as Brazil had been among the favorites. But in their quarterfinal match against Croatia, the game went to penalties, and Rodrigo took the first penalty and he missed, meaning Brazil were eliminated. But since then, his impact on both Real Madrid and Brazil has grown and grown, and he's become something of a Champions League specialist, with vital goals against Manchester City in the run to his second Champions League trophy with Real just 2 years later. Rodrigo has also adapted to his role on the right wing so well that it now gives Real Madrid's overcrowded attack proper balance, with Mbappé and Vinicius often on the left-hand side of the pitch. It's clear that without Rodrigo's skill, sacrifice, and hard work, the team would be so unbalanced it just wouldn't function, which is why people say he's the underrated hero of the current Real Madrid side. And while he's no longer the upcoming prodigy, people forget that he's still only 24 and is now valued at more than $100 million, which makes it even more strange that he's yet to feature on any Ballon d'Or shortlists, as the media just keeps leaving him out of the spotlight. But I'm sure he's going to prove them wrong. Now, over the past 3 years, Antony has gone from a rising star to being the most hated and the most laughed-at player in the entire Premier League. After signing for Manchester United for £100 million, he's put on poor performance after poor performance, causing him to be labeled a total flop. And his off-the-pitch drama hasn't helped his case either, with a series of severe accusations cropping up in recent years, shining a dark light on the winger. But has Antony really been as bad as everyone says he has? And does he deserve all this hate?
Brett tries his luck, and then Antony! For Manchester United!
Well, in order to understand this, we have to start from the very beginning, because on the 24th of February 2000, Antony was born in Osasco, a tough area in Sao Paulo, Brazil, where life was a constant struggle. He grew up in the favela known as Inferinho, which directly translates to Little Hell, and Antony's early years were marked by constant danger, with drug trafficking and police raids happening right outside his home. We were so used to seeing guns that it was not even scary. They were just a part of everyday life. His house was so small that he not only shared a room with his parents until he was a teenager, but he even shared a bed with them, and his family barely had enough to even get by, often going without basic necessities. But with everything going bad in his life, football was the only escape he had. Antony's love for the game started at a very young age. We didn't have much, but I always had football. I would elastico the drug dealers, rainbow the bus drivers, nutmeg the thieves. With a ball at my feet, I had no fear. Like so many other kids in his neighborhood, Antony would play barefoot on dirt pitches because football boots were a luxury his family couldn't afford. His inspiration towards becoming a footballer also started by idolizing Ronaldinho and Neymar, watching YouTube clips of them on his neighbor's Wi-Fi. His aunt would also take him to Sao Paulo matches, and by the age of 5, he already knew all the chants. Football became his dream, and he was determined to one day become an idol for fans just like him. Antony's first real steps into football came at the age of only 8 years old, when the director of the futsal team, Ramiro Barreira, spotted him. While observing a match in the favela, Antony caught the director's eyes with his fearless style, performing bold tricks against adult players, many of whom were notorious gang members. After several years of hardship, now 14 years old, Antony finally got the chance he was waiting for, being scouted by Sao Paulo's youth academy, making it his first major opportunity to prove himself in the sport. But his experience at the club was far from easy. He wasn't seen as a prodigy, and the coaches were undecided about him, but they still decided to keep him on the team more for his work ethic rather than any standout talent. He often arrived at training after school without having eaten because he couldn't afford a meal, and he also faced challenges with discipline, admitting to emotional struggles that nearly got him expelled from the club on 3 separate occasions. This is where we start to see glimpses of Antony's behavior getting in the way of his performances, something that would only get worse as he grew older, but more on that soon. Despite almost being expelled from the club 3 times, Antony stuck around with Sao Paulo for several years until age 17, when Antony signed his first professional contract with the club, where his performances quickly began to turn heads. Known for his flair and audacity on the wing, Antony's creative dribbles, pace, and technical ability helped him quickly cement his place in the team. His confidence in taking on defenders, combined with manufacturing important goals and assists, made him a standout talent. He became a fan favorite, helping Sao Paulo compete at the highest level, and his potential was clear to see. In his first few years with the team, Antony became one of Sao Paulo's brightest prospects, and his performances did not go unnoticed as scouts from major European clubs began closely following the young Brazilian winger. Come 2019, Antony played a key role in Sao Paulo's victory victory in the Copinha, scoring in the final against Vasco da Gama and earning the title of Player of the Tournament. He also helped the team reach the final of the Sao Paulo State Championship, where he scored in the second leg against Corinthians, though his side ultimately lost 2-1. This match was held in front of 44,000 fans, but despite the star he was becoming, he was still living in the Inferninho favela. But luckily for Antony, his luck would soon change because it didn't take long for European clubs to start showing some real interest in him. Dortmund showed strong interest, but in the end, Antony opted for an Ajax side led by manager Erik ten Hag. So in February 2020, Antony made the signing for a total of 16 million euros, and he was really putting in the work to make it work. During the pandemic lockdowns, Antony added 7 kilograms of muscle, making him faster and stronger. So by the time he arrived in Amsterdam for the 2020-2021 season, his impact was immediate, as he netted 9 goals in his first 19 appearances across all competitions. Things were going well for Antony. He was now being looked at as a future star, but things wouldn't always be this way, as the storm was definitely coming, just not quite yet. At the conclusion of his debut season with Ajax, Antony earned a spot in Brazil's under-23 squad for the Tokyo Olympics, where he played a key role throughout the tournament, starting in every match as Brazil advanced to the final against Spain. In the final, Antony provided the crucial assist for Malcolm's extra-time winner, securing a 2-1 victory and the gold medal. His impressive performances were quickly recognized, leading to a call-up to Brazil's senior squad by Coach Tite for the World Cup qualifiers, where Antony scored on his debut in a 3-1 win over Venezuela. Moving into his second season at Ajax, he became even more impressive, particularly during a remarkable Champions League group stage where Ajax won all 6 of their matches, finishing with a perfect 18 points. Antony contributed significantly, scoring 2 goals against Borussia Dortmund and Sporting, while also providing 4 assists throughout the campaign. By the season's end, Antony had recorded 12 goals and 10 assists, playing a vital role in helping Ajax secure another Eredivisie title. However, during his time at Ajax, not everyone was pleased with his performances. The Brazilian was sent off towards the end of a tense 3-2 win over rivals Feyenoord for a comedic showing of time wasting and rolling about on the floor for minutes, leading to one of his teammates to grab him, only for the player to roll over again. On the sidelines, Feyenoord coach Arne Slot kept shaking his head and could not help laughing. Ajax legend Marco van Basten described the Brazilian as childish, adding, "Antony has his skills, but he's confused with the things he's trying to do." As a result of this, tensions were rising between Antony and Ajax, and he started to look for an exit. And that's when Manchester United showed strong interest in signing him, even submitting an €85 million bid that was rejected by Ajax. Antony grew frustrated that they would not let him leave, so he skipped training sessions, creating even more tension until he was excluded from several matches. In a later interview, Antony shared that he had hoped to leave as early as February, but waited until the summer transfer window to push for the move. He also turned down a contract extension with Ajax, stating that he wanted to follow his dreams elsewhere. Ajax eventually gave in to temptation after receiving an offer from Manchester United for around €100 million. This was the third highest transfer fee ever paid by the English team after Paul Pogba and Romelu Lukaku, and this was also Ajax's and the Eridivisie's biggest transfer ever. After an impressive 24 goals and 22 assists in 82 appearances for Ajax, Antony eagerly agreed to follow Ten Hag to United, who desperately wanted to bring the Brazilian with him. Everything seemed to be falling into place for Antony after his blockbuster move to United, with great expectations surrounding his future at the club. However, what initially looked like the perfect step in his career would soon reveal itself as the beginning of his major downfall. He arrived in Manchester, where millions of United fans were eager to see the Brazilian recreate his Ajax magic in the Premier League, and with a $100 million price tag, the pressure was on. 22 years old and hungry to impress, Antony arrived in England and scored on his debut against Arsenal, leaving supporters hopeful he would be the flair player they lacked to bring the club back to its former heights. He scored a banger in United's next league match, but lost the game 6-3 to Manchester City, and the following week, he scored for a third successive league game to equalize the score at Everton as United won 2-1, becoming the first United player to score in their first 3 consecutive Premier League games. Later in the season, in a Europa League playoff match, he managed to score the winning goal against Barcelona, followed by a win against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup final 3 days later to win his first trophy for the club. However, Antony's time at Old Trafford quickly took a turn for the worse as the goals began to dry up. Despite his hefty price tag, His performances on the pitch were inconsistent, as his dribbling and flashy tricks, which had been so effective in the Eredivisie, didn't translate well in England, and he began to face growing criticism for his lack of end product and decision-making. As the season progressed, his confidence seemed to decline, and Antony struggled to make a significant impact on matches. He only scored one more Premier League goal all season during a brilliant performance against Nottingham Forest, where he also provided an assist and ended his first season with just 4 goals and 2 assists. During the penultimate match against Chelsea, he picked up an injury, meaning he had to miss the FA Cup final against Manchester City to further rub salt in the wound of what was a disappointing season. Adding on to the footballing struggles, Antony's off-field issues severely impacted his career. 3 days after the FA Cup final, serious allegations of assault surfaced from his ex-girlfriend, which shook his personal and professional life. United made no comment at the time, but Antony felt the need to release a statement on Instagram, insisting that this was a false accusation. These allegations did not directly affect his professional career, as he was selected for United's preseason squad in the United States prior to the 23-24 season, where he scored 2 goals. Ten Hag was optimistic with Antony and insisted that the allegations did not influence any decisions made with his selection. But soon enough, after only 4 games of the new Premier League season, the same ex-girlfriend released more disturbing news with further allegations, such as threatening to throw her out of his speeding car, throwing glass at her, and punching her in the chest. She also filed a police report in England, to which the Manchester police made inquiries about. At that time, Antony was in Brazil to play for his national team in the World Cup qualifiers. He issued another denial in relation to the new allegations, but this did not stop his national team from dropping him in order to safeguard the victim and the team in case the allegations were true. Not soon after this, 2 other women came forward with more accusations, and these claims dominated headlines, adding immense pressure on the player. As investigations unfolded, Antony was placed on leave by Manchester United, and sponsors distanced themselves from the Brazilian winger. The allegations overshadowed any potential on-field redemption, and his form deteriorated under the weight of legal troubles and media attention. But his leave only lasted 19 days, as Antony was being fully cooperative with the police, and no hard evidence was found. As expected, Antony's 23-24 season at Manchester United was very underwhelming in terms of statistics and impact. In the Premier League, he made 29 appearances, of which 14 were as a substitute, scoring just 1 goal. His performances in other competitions followed a similar trend, with no goals in 4 Champions League appearances, while in the FA Cup, he found the net twice in 4 matches. This downward trend carried on to the current 24-25 season, in which he's had yet another poor start to the year. After over 2 years in Manchester, he's failed to find any form and just continues to put in poor performance after poor performance, meaning the 100 million seems like it was just flushing money down the toilet, as he now warms the bench week in, week out. But will Antony ever fully recover from the damage done both professionally and personally? I doubt it, but time will tell. Now, Ronaldo Nazário grew up in the Brazilian favelas, rose to the very top of European football, and then fell victim to one of the most heartbreaking downfalls in the sport's history. He scored over 400 career goals, won 2 World Cups and 2 Ballon d'Ors, but suffered some of the worst injuries a football player has ever faced. So, this is the insane rise and the tragic fall of the greatest striker football has ever seen, Ronaldo Nazário.
For me, he was not playing football, he was football.
Ronaldo is special.
The best football player I have ever seen on a pitch.
This crazy story begins on the 8th of September 1976 in the favelas of Rio de Janeiro, because on that day, Ronaldo Luiz Nazário de Lima was born. But that's a long name, so we'll stick with Ronaldo Nazário for the video. Ronaldo had 2 older siblings, and their upbringing was difficult, to say the least. Ronaldo's father was a phone technician, and his mother was a housewife, meaning that there wasn't much money in the family. But as we see with most football legends, this tough upbringing was just fuel to work harder and escape poverty. From a very young age, Ronaldo's football talent became clear, as he used to play on the streets in Brazil. His mother says that she always found him on the streets with a football when he was supposed to be in school, and it's that love for the sport that took Ronaldo to the very top of the game. At 11 years old, Ronaldo's parents separated, which just made life that little bit harder for him. But of course, that meant he had more fuel and drive to really make it. Now, Ronaldo didn't actually start out playing football. Instead, he grew up playing futsal, which is where he credits his skills and dribbling ability. But when he was 14 years old, he was spotted by Brazilian legend Jairzinho, and from that moment he saw him, he knew that Ronaldo was going to be a star. So he helped him make the move to football and join the São Cristóvão Youth Academy, where he shined. At just 15 years old, he was already playing for the under-20 team, and he was getting so good that bigger clubs started to look at him. He wanted to move to Flamengo and was given a trial with the club, but he couldn't afford the bus fare to get there, so they rejected him. Instead, he signed for Brazilian club Cruzeiro. 4 goals on his youth team debut meant he got a call-up to the first team within just 3 months of arriving, and just like that, Ronaldo signed his first pro contract with the club. Now, Cruzeiro is an important part of Ronaldo's story, and you'll see exactly why later on in his life. But for now, Ronaldo was 16 years old with more talent than anyone could imagine, and was about to start his professional football career. Skinny, head-shaven, and hungry to win, Ronaldo tore it up at Cruzeiro. He had it all, even from such a young age. Headers, stepovers, and screamers were just a part of life for the Brazilian. On October 5th, 1993, Ronaldo scored his first career hat-trick, making him the youngest player to do so since Pelé, and just 1 month later, he scored 5 goals in a single game, which was the day the world started to take notice of the striker. Ronaldo spent a total of 2 seasons at Cruzeiro, where he scored 44 goals in 47 games. He approached every single game in the same way, like a dog who had just been let off the leash for the first time. This was a constant throughout his entire career, as he was fearless approaching every match. This all-out approach is what made him so great, but is sadly what also led to his severe downfall. But we'll get to that soon. In the summer of 1994, Ronaldo was called up with Brazil to play at the World Cup. Although he didn't play a minute in the competition, Brazil won the tournament, meaning he picked up a World Cup winner's medal at just 17 years old. That same summer, all the European clubs had their eyes on Ronaldo. Man United almost got their hands on him, but they couldn't sort out a work permit, so he ended up making a £4 million move to Dutch club PSV Eindhoven. At PSV, Ronaldo just kept getting better, and by 18 years old, he was already considered as one of the best strikers in the world. He was an impossible player to defend, as he was quicker with the ball than without it, and had the best dribbling that any striker had ever had before. He spent a total of 2 seasons at PSV, where he won the Eredivisie Top Scorer Award in 1995 and the Dutch Cup in 1996. He kept up the same scoring rate he had in Brazil, with almost a goal a game with 54 goals in 58 matches, and in the summer of 1996, Barcelona broke the world record transfer fee to sign Ronaldo on an 8-year contract for a total fee of £20 million, meaning at just 19 years old, Ronaldo was the most expensive player in the history of football, and he was ready to make that price tag look like a bargain. This season at Barcelona is where Ronaldo was at his physical peak, just before the major issues would begin. He was no longer a skinny kid. He had built up a considerable amount of strength, making him the perfect athlete. This year, he was simply unstoppable, scoring 47 goals in 49 games for Barcelona. This saw him pick up the European Golden Shoe, and meant that at just 20 years old, he was already seen as the next football great. There were many comparisons to the likes of Pelé, Maradona, and Van Basten, to the point where Ronaldo was the natural heir to their thrones. It's during this season that he was given the nickname El Fenomeno, or in English, the Phenomenon, and he also signed a 10-year deal with Nike, along with a lifetime endorsement deal which was worth over £160 million. From the streets of Rio to generational wealth in a matter of years. Now that's some story, but this story is about to get even crazier very soon. But before that, I really need your help, because I'm trying to hit 100,000 subs this year. This has been my dream ever since I was a kid, so I'd really appreciate if you'd help me out. Okay, now that that's out of the way, let's get back to football. After this insane season, Ronaldo at Barcelona had verbally agreed on a new contract which would see him double his wage and extend the 8-year deal, but after the club's lawyers took a look at the contract, they said it was absurd and blocked the renewal. This saw Inter Milan swoop in and sign him for £27 million, actually breaking the world transfer record that he had just set the year before. He landed in Italy, and the same story continued. He was on fire, scoring 25 goals in his first season, winning the Serie A Player of the Season award. He also picked up the Ballon d'Or this year, making him the youngest player to ever win the award at only 21 years old. After this first season in Milan, Ronaldo and Brazil had the 1998 World Cup to play, where Brazil fought their way to the World Cup final, with Ronaldo chipping in with 4 goals along the way. But the night before the final against France, Ronaldo suffered a convulsive fit, which meant he should have been left out of the match. Somehow, he still managed to play, but it was clear he wasn't 100% on the day because he was only a shadow of the player he usually was, as France sank Brazil 3-0 to lift the World Cup. After this blow, Ronaldo returned to Inter for the 98-99 season, hoping to set the Serie A on fire once again, and he started off the season by doing just that. But this year wasn't all up for Ronaldo, as he picked up a couple of injuries along the way. Nothing too serious, but enough to stunt his progress that season, meaning he only managed to play 19 Serie A games and score 14 goals in the process. The fans were hoping that this would just be an off-season for the best player in the world, but as he returned next season, nobody was ready for the devastating downfall that was about to occur. Going into the 1999-2000 season, Ronaldo was named as the captain of Inter Milan, and Inter had very high hopes for the season ahead. But on the 21st of November, in a league game against Lecce, these hopes would be shattered. During this game, Ronaldo felt something wrong in his knee and was forced to leave the pitch early. He thought this was just a minor injury, but the medical staff later found out that he ruptured a tendon in his knee and required surgery, meaning he was set to miss at least 6 months of football. This was a real blow for Ronaldo and for Inter, as he was clearly the best player in the world at the time. But despite this setback, Ronaldo fought his way back through the recovery, and after 6 long months, he was deemed fit to play again. On the 12th of April 2000, Ronaldo made his way back onto the pitch, ready to regain his electric form, but this day marked the worst moment in his career. After only 6 minutes back on the pitch in the Coppa Italia final against Lazio, Ronaldo was running at the defense doing his famous stepovers that he had done 1,000 times before, but this time he just collapsed to the floor in agony. It turned out that Ronaldo suffered a complete rupture of the kneecap tendons, an injury even worse than what he had last time. The club physio says that his kneecap actually exploded, making this the worst injury he had ever seen before. This injury was so bad that he had to not only miss the rest of this season, but missed the entire next season also. Because of this, the captaincy was taken off him and handed to Javier Zanetti, as it looked like Ronaldo's career was over. Surely his career was over. There was no coming back from an injury like this, right? In the summer of 2002, there was a World Cup to play. 4 years on from the Brazilian heartbreak against France in 1998, Ronaldo wasn't meant to make it to this tournament. The injury he had was supposed to finish his career, but in what is quite possibly the greatest career comeback in football history, Ronaldo somehow got fit for the end of the 2001-2002 season, and after more than 2 years out of the game, he came back and scored 7 goals in Inter's final 10 games of the season. This meant he was back and fit to play in the World Cup. But he wasn't only injury-free. He was angry and fired up, ready to dominate this World Cup. He showed up to the tournament with the most iconic haircut in football history and put on a show like no other. 8 goals in the tournament, including a brace in the final against Germany, saw Ronaldo Nazario lift the World Cup trophy for the second time in his career. But this time, he was the focal point of the team. Because of his World Cup heroics, he was handed the 2002 Ballon d'Or, naming him as the best football player in the world, as he was so clearly back to his best. Now, at this time, Florentino Perez was collecting the Infinity Stones with Real Madrid, as he was splurging out on the best players in the world. And in this same summer, Ronaldo was the latest addition to the Galacticos, making a £46 million move away from Inter Milan to sign for Real Madrid. His signing broke the all-time jersey sale record in 24 hours, as the fans were so excited to have the best player in the world at their club. He actually arrived at Real Madrid Madrid slightly injured, which might have been a warning sign for the Real Madrid fans, but they didn't care because he quickly recovered and led Madrid to La Liga that season with 30 goals in 44 games. Probably the highlight of his Real Madrid career would have even got the Man United fans up on their feet to clap for his brilliance. In the next season at Real Madrid, he suffered an injury late in the season, and without Ronaldo, they collapsed in all competitions, finishing the season trophyless, although Ronaldo still had a great season on a personal level. The 2004-05 season was basically a repeat of the previous in the sense that Ronaldo performed individually, picked up a couple of injuries, and Real Madrid didn't win anything significant, but this was the last time we would see Ronaldo Nazario in such fine form because from 2006, his career started to fall apart in a tragic way. Ronaldo spent one more year at Real Madrid where the injuries continued to pile up, but this time it wasn't just injuries getting in the way of his football. He started to experience some weight issues and couldn't stay in shape. He was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, which basically means his metabolism was slowed down and he put on weight much easier. So now Ronaldo was struggling with injuries, weight, and general fitness, which was seemingly getting the better of him. It didn't help that he fell out of favor with Real Madrid's new manager, Fabio Capello, who decided to ship him off to AC Milan in 2007 for £8 million. When Ronaldo arrived at AC Milan, he had this to say about his time at Real Madrid. "I would like to thank the fans who supported me all the time and thank the teammates that I've had here and all the coaches I've had, except one." This was clearly a dig at Capello, but anyway, Ronaldo was now back in Italy looking to jumpstart his career once more. What's interesting is that Ronaldo doesn't seem to care about club loyalty, having now played for both Barcelona and Real Madrid and Inter Milan and AC Milan. In Ronaldo's first season in Milan, he only managed to play 14 games, picking up 7 goals in the process as the injuries and fitness issues persisted. Then going into his second season, they just got worse as he only managed to play 300 minutes that whole year. Because of his inability to stay fit, AC Milan had to release him from the club in 2009, but Ronaldo wasn't going to give up on football just yet because he was going to give it one last shot back home in Brazil. Before he was released by Milan, he suffered another bad knee injury, so he returned home looking for clubs to help him with his recovery. The Brazilian club Flamengo helped him for 4 months with his recovery and got him fit. Ronaldo claims to have grown up as a Flamengo fan, so it was looking like this was going to be a fairy tale ending to his career, signing for the club he grew up a fan of. The Flamengo fans were excited to have the legend join the club, but in a shocking turn of events, Ronaldo signed for Brazilian rivals Corinthians. The Flamengo fans were furious as they started to burn shirts of Ronaldo, but he just claims that he never received an offer from the club, so he chose to sign for a club that wanted him. Between 2009 and 2011, Ronaldo actually managed to play a total of 42 games in Brazil and bagged 24 goals in the process, despite the constant battles against injuries and weight gain. But on the 14th of February 2011, at 34 years old, Ronaldo decided to finally give in to his body and hang up his boots for good. After a total of 342 goals in 482 career games, Ronaldo had this to say: "It's very hard to leave something that made me so happy. Mentally, I wanted to continue, but I have to acknowledge that I lost to my body. The head wants to go on, but the body can't take any more. I think of an action, but I can't do it the way I want to. It's time to go." And that was that. Now, after retirement, he actually went on to buy the Brazilian football club Cruzeiro, which is where he started his career at just 16 years old, closing the loop on an insane story. But this isn't the only insane football story out there. So, Vinicius Jr. grew up as a Brazilian wonder kid, but by the age of 17, the whole country laughed at him. He was able to sign for Real Madrid for 45 million euros, and for the first 3 years was labeled a flop until he finally became the best football player in the world. But despite his talent, he has also become the most hated player in all of Spain. So, how did he do it? How did a 45 million euro flop become the best, but also the most hated player in the world? This is the full story of Vinicius Jr. Vinicius Jr. was born on the 12th of July 2000 in São Gonçalo, Brazil, a poor area in Rio de Janeiro. Vinny's first taste of football came in 2006 when his father took him to a feeder academy associated with Flamengo, where Vinicius was first documented as a left back, but very quickly they realized that he was destined to play higher up the pitch, as even from a young age, he was lightning quick and could do magic with the ball at his feet. Vinny's family was poor, so much so that he had to go and live with his uncle just to be able to shorten the distance to training. But luckily for the family, when he turned 10 years old, he was handed his first youth contract with Flamengo, and the family started to receive financial aid from the club. This was a big deal because Flamengo were one of the biggest clubs in all of Brazil, meaning his family started to see his football ability as the ticket to a better life. And as time went on, they started to believe this more and more because Vinny dominated football at youth level, really making a name for himself. At 16 years old, he got the call-up to play for Brazil's under-17 team in the South American Championship. In this tournament, Vinicius toyed with his opponents and scored 7 goals, winning the tournament and finishing as the best player. And this is probably the best time he's had with the Brazilian national team in his whole career, because as time went on, things wouldn't go too well for him in his country. But more on that later. Now, this is when the biggest clubs in the world really started to take notice of the young Brazilian, as he was being talked about as the next Neymar. And Barcelona wanted to get their hands on him so badly that they were ready to pay Flamengo his release clause of 30 million euros. But Real Madrid weren't ready to lose another Neymar to Barcelona, so they got Flamengo to offer Vinny a new contract with a new release clause of 45 million euros just to outbid Barca. And just like that, on the 10th of August 2010, Real Madrid got their hands on the next Brazilian wonder kid. But as much as Real thought they got a superstar, everyone in Brazil was laughing at this transfer because Vinny Jr. had only just made his senior team debut 10 days before this signing, where he only played for 20 minutes, so Real Madrid broke the world transfer record for an under-19 player with major risks attached, as he was completely unproven, which led the whole country to think they got scammed. And for a while, they'd be right until one day they wouldn't be right anymore. But we're gonna have to wait for that. For now, since Vinicius was under the age of 18, he couldn't get a work permit in Spain. So, before he could join the Spanish Giants, he had to spend the next 2 seasons at Flamengo, where things were quite rocky, to say the least. In his first season, he played a total of 37 games, where he only managed to score 4 goals and get 1 assist, which resulted in a lot of criticism from the Brazilian media. He was not playing well. He had poor decision-making and no end product, and with the 45 million euro price tag looming over his head, he was under even more pressure. He did manage to end the season strong though, and actually carried this into his second season in Brazil, where he scored 10 goals and registered 3 assists in 32 games. As his overall game improved drastically, he was happy on the pitch, always smiling and dancing, and now he had just turned 18 years old, meaning he finally got his dream move to Real Madrid. But little did he know that things were going to get very difficult for him. On the 20th of July 2018, Vinicius Jr. was presented as a Real Madrid player, and from the very start, something was just off. In his presentation ceremony, he struggled to do some simple tricks, and it was looking like the pressure of the biggest club in the world was going to be too much for him. When he arrived, he began playing in the B team until the end of September, when he was brought on as a late substitute to make his debut for the club. A month later, on the 31st of October, he was handed his first start in a Copa del Rey match, where he picked up 2 assists in a 4-0 win, and just 4 days later, he scored his first goal as he came on as a substitute against Real Valladolid. Things were looking good. He was becoming a regular starter, and by the end of February, he got his first call-up to the Brazilian national team. But everything came crumbling down on the 6th of March in a Champions League game against Ajax, where Vinny would suffer a ligament tear that ended his season on the spot. As he recovered for the 1920 season, a few things had changed. Zinedine Zidane was back at Real Madrid for his second stint as manager, and they had just spent 100 million euros to sign Eden Hazard, who, unfortunately for Vinny, was a left winger, meaning he was going to struggle to get into that starting 11, and when he would be played out of position. Even when Hazard was performing poorly, he was still chosen over Vinny because Zidane had to try to make his transfer work, since he was the one who signed off off on the €100 million deal. It also didn't help that Vinny seemed to have lost any good form he had from last season. The same criticisms rang true again. He had no end product, he lacked composure, and it would get so bad that the Real Madrid fans would even boo him. When Vinny finally scored his first goal that season, he broke down in tears on the pitch, as it had been 8 months since he was able to find the back of the net. Vinicius ended the season with 29 appearances and only 3 goals, and despite being crowned a La Liga champion, this was far from what he was hoping to achieve in Spain. But heading into the 2021 season, things just went from bad to worse, as now his teammates were starting to turn on him. This is footage of Karim Benzema at halftime of a Champions League match, telling Ferland Mendy, "Brother, don't play to him. On my mother's life. He's playing against us." This is how bad things got for Vinny. Karim Benzema, a leader in the squad, telling his teammates to avoid passing to him. And remember, Vinny's still only 21 years old at this point, meaning this could have and probably should have broken a young player like him. Real Madrid ended this season trophyless, and there was a lot of frustration in the fan base, and for some reason, the fans were targeting all their hate at Vinny. Even though Eden Hazard was playing just as badly and cost twice as much, Barcelona fans were also enjoying this very much, as they were so close to signing him 4 years ago, thinking he would be the next Neymar. But despite all the similarities in their style of play, now people were saying he would never be as good as Neymar because he just had no end product and wasn't able to score goals consistently. But things were about to change, because heading into the 21-22 season, Real Madrid appointed a new manager in Carlo Ancelotti, and seemingly overnight, something changed within Vinny. He was done being the laughingstock and was ready to become what he was meant to be, a footballing great. Now, over these next few years, Vinicius Jr. would go on to become the best, but also the most hated player in all of Spain. But before this season began, he was called up to play in the Copa America, where Brazil made it all the way to the final, but unfortunately were beaten by Messi in Argentina. Vinny didn't really play a big role in this squad, but it was his first major tournament with the national team, so it was significant for him. As Vinicius Jr. landed back in Madrid after the summer of 2021, he was introduced to his new manager, Carlo Ancelotti, and it seems like it was love at first sight, because this season we saw a whole new Vinny. It's also important to note the amount of work Vinny had been putting in, especially on his finishing, and this really showed as he opened the season scoring the 4th in a 4-1 victory for Real, having come off the bench, which is what cemented his starting spot over Hazard under Ancelotti. Real fans were starting to wonder if this is a new Vinny or just a one-month wonder, because they had never seen this level of composure from him before, and he just kept getting better. On the 30th of October, he bagged a brace to beat Elche 2-1 and send Real top of the table. These were his 8th and 9th goals of the season, meaning just 2 months into the season, he had broken his goal-scoring record of the previous 3 seasons. And he didn't stop there. He had quickly formed a killer partnership with none other than Karim Benzema, the one who just 1 year before was instructing the team to avoid passing to him. And by the end of this season, Benzema would go on to take back what he said, as he claims Vinny came back a changed man this year. All in all, this season was amazing for Real Madrid. They lifted La Liga and the Champions League trophy, and this time round, Vinny played crucial roles in both victories. He finished this season with 22 goals and 20 assists, which was more than his previous 3 combined, and he also showed up in the biggest games, scoring in the Champions League semi-final against Man City, and then scoring the only goal in the final against Liverpool, meaning he was the reason Real Madrid were the champions of Europe. He was named as the Champions League Young Player of the Season and placed in both the La Liga and the Champions League Teams of the Season. Even though Benzema was the star man at Real Madrid this season, eventually going on to pick up the Ballon d'Or, it was very clear that Vinicius Jr. had finally evolved and become one of the best players at world football. But now, since his performances on the pitch were no longer something that people could attack, and since a lot of rival fans love to hate on Vinny, they turned to the color of his skin instead, as he became a serial victim to many racist chants, attacks, and comments. Vinicius Jr. is a provocative player. He showboats, he dances, he loves an argument, and this makes him an easy target for the racists, and this is something that would continue to get worse over the coming seasons. Now, heading into the 2022-23 season, he kept his form up and actually bettered his output tally as he ended the season with 23 goals and 21 assists. Real Madrid fell short in La Liga, losing it out to Barcelona, and they were knocked out in the semi-finals of the Champions League by the eventual winners, Man City. But Vinicius still cropped up in big games like the round of 16 against Liverpool and the semi-final first leg against City. Vinicius did manage to lift the Copa del Rey, and this season also had a World Cup sandwiched in the middle of it, but as is now the common case, Brazil underperformed, meaning there isn't really much to talk about. This season, it seemed like it was the world against Vinny, as he was by far the most tackled player in all of Europe, as so many players hated his style of play and would often find his trickery insulting. So there was a lot of extra aggression placed on him. The issue here was that the referees weren't doing much to protect Vinny, and they often let things go by. There were also a number of incidents from fans showing pure hatred against Vinny, like when there was an effigy hung of him, and the real boiling point of this year was the penultimate game of the season where Real Madrid faced Valencia. Vinny had been receiving racist insults and comments quite frequently in many away grounds this season, but none seemed to be as bad as this game. Throughout the entire match, the chants and the comments were louder than ever, with the referee even having to pause the game. Vinicius walked up to the crowd and pointed at a specific few who had been hurling abuse at him all game. Tensions were very clearly high in the stadium, and towards the end of the match, a fight broke out amongst the players. Vinny was grabbed from his neck and he retaliated, pushing the guy off, but the referee decided to hand Vinny a red card for this. So, after being hurled abuse at and attacked, he was getting sent off, and this was obviously not going to end well for La Liga. Vinicius took to social media to attack the league's handling of this entire situation, and support poured in from the world of football. Vinny was fed up with all the hate, but he was just going to take this and turn this into fuel, as he was eager to meet Valencia again to get his revenge. So, now heading into the 23-24 season, his 6th year at Madrid, Vinicius Jr. was handed the number 7 jersey as Eden Hazard finally left the club. Karim Benzema also left to the Saudi League, meaning Vinicius Jr. was officially the main man at Madrid, and with the addition of Jude Bellingham and the continued growth of Rodrigo, boy, were they ready to cook. For the 3rd season in a row, Vinicius scored more goals than the last, as this year he picked up 24 goals in 39 games, but his performances were more than just stats, as he was simply unstoppable. On the 31st of October, Real Madrid announced a contract extension, which meant Vinicius was guaranteed to stay at the club for another 4 years. This was especially significant since people were speculating that he wanted out of Spain due to the heavy levels of racism, but Vinny preferred to take revenge, and in March of this season, he finally got to return to Valencia for the first time since his sending off. The game didn't start as he hoped, as Real Madrid found themselves 2 goals down, and, as expected, Vinicius was playing in his usual expressive style, and Valencia fans were abusing him for it. Luckily for Vinny, he was able to score 2 goals to level the game, celebrating the second, creating an iconic image in front of the Valencia fans. Jude Bellingham went on to score a late winner, but the referee blew the whistle right before the ball went in, meaning this historic game was overshadowed by a refereeing error. Despite this controversy, Real Madrid carried on to have a fantastic end to the season as they comfortably lifted the La Liga title, with Vinny finishing in the team of the tournament for the 3rd year in a row. In the Champions League, though, Vinny would step up his game even further as he finished as the player of the tournament with 6 goals and 5 assists, with crucial goals in both the semi-finals and the final to lift his 2nd Champions League. A couple crazy stats about this. He's now scored in the Champions League semi-final 3 years in a row, and he's the youngest player to ever score in 2 separate Champions League finals. Talk about a big game player. As the summer rolled on, Brazil played another Copa America with Vinicius, but yet again, nothing really to talk about. But this definitely does not take away from the season Vinicius Jr. had. He used to be told that he will never be as good as Neymar because he lacked the composure, but now he's on track to do what Neymar failed to do his whole career, as he is being talked about as the best football player in the world and is the favorite to lift the Ballon d'Or. My guess is that this has all happened because he subscribed to Top Biz. You should try it too. Vinicius Jr., you legend. Now, Neymar is one of the greatest football players of all time. At 19 years old, he was the golden boy of Brazilian football. At 22 years old, he was arguably the greatest dribbler on the planet. And at 25, he became the most expensive player of all time, as he was quite literally unplayable. But as incredible as his rise to the top of football was, there was always one thing missing. He was always just one step away from becoming the best football player in the world. But injuries, bad behavior, and poor career decisions all kept him from reaching that goal.
Neymar!
But the questions remain. Did Neymar really live up to his potential? How good were his prime years of football? And most importantly, how on earth did this poor Brazilian boy become one of the greatest football players on the planet? This is the full story of Neymar. Just like all Brazilian legends, Neymar grew up in a humble household in Sao Paulo, but even from the age of 4, it was clear he was a footballing prodigy. His dad was a former pro footballer himself and knew talent when he saw it, so he mentored his son, who would spend hours practicing his skills with incredible dedication and passion so that his natural ability didn't go to waste. When he wasn't practicing or playing street football with his mates, Neymar would watch videos of his idol Ronaldinho and try to copy his silky skills. By age 11, he joined Santos, one of the top clubs in Brazil, and it's there that he would face a relentless schedule that pushed him further and further, so that by the age of 14, he was so good he was even invited to Spain to try out for none other than Real Madrid. At this point, he and his father were faced with a huge choice to stay in Brazil or fly across the world to Spain, and unlike what many young footballers would choose, Neymar stayed in Brazil with his dad, saying cultural values were the most important thing for his humble family. But as you know, this was not the last time Neymar would get interest from the big European teams, but all that was yet to come, because for now, he was just starting to make enough money playing in Brazil to contribute to his family, and so at 15 years old, they were finally able to buy a house, doing so right outside of the Santos Stadium to give Neymar even better chances of success. By the age of 17, Neymar made his debut for Santos, and it only took him a week before he scored his first goal for the club. He went on to score 14 league goals in that first season, but it was his dazzling dribbling and creativity that really got the fans off their seats and even got sponsors to take note. This is when Nike swooped in, giving Neymar an 11-year contract as, day by day, the world was starting to take note of this young Brazilian boy tearing up football in Brazil. And that was only going to get crazier the next year, because in 2010, Neymar scored an incredible 42 goals in 60 appearances for Santos, leading 14,000 fans to sign a petition that Neymar should be included in the Brazil World Cup squad. But believe it or not, head coach Dunga said he didn't have enough international experience to go to the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, where Brazil would lose out in the quarterfinals. But Neymar wouldn't be too worried, because it wasn't long before Brazil got a new head coach and he would finally make his national team debut. And what a surprise, the 18-year-old scored after just 28 minutes of his debut, making that the first of many goals for the national team. Clubs were also really taking notice now, with Chelsea bidding $20 million for him and West Ham United also trying to get in the race. Neymar rejected these bids, saying he's only focused on Santos, but it was his agent who was pushing for a move, saying he wants to be the best player in the world. The chances of him doing that while playing in Brazil are 0, which, to be fair, is slightly better odds than the chances of it happening at West Ham. But anyway, Neymar's importance for Santos was growing so much that it even came to the point that when he had an argument with the head coach over who gets to take a penalty kick, the club decided to sack the coach, and that decision would prove to be the right one, because Neymar was about to lead Santos to glory as he scored 6 goals in the 2011 Copa Libertadores, including key goals in the semifinals and the final, where he won the Man of the Match award as Santos won South America's top football trophy for the first time since the days of Pelé in 1963, meaning all of South America was singing the praise of Neymar Jr. Now, the thing about this period of time is we were seeing the rise of social media, and specifically YouTube clips, meaning that for pretty much the first time in football history, players like Neymar in the Brazilian League were being seen by football fans across the globe, going viral for skill after skill and dribble after dribble. But it was one specific goal which would really announce himself to the world with an incredible solo run against Flamengo, which won the 2011 Puskas Award for the best goal of that year.
Neymar. Facilidade do Neymar, vai levitando o jogador do Santos. Aí o Neymar protegeu, fez o drible, que lance do Neymar, que golaço!
He was also named the 2011 South American Footballer of the Year and came 10th in the Ballon d'Or rankings despite still playing in Brazil. Come the next season, and Neymar would go back-to-back, winning the South American Footballer of the Year again, but now the pressure to move to Europe was mounting. Neymar had the potential to be the best football player in the world, and that destiny was never going to be fulfilled in Brazil. So, in May 2013, Neymar made the move across the Atlantic to sign for one of the biggest football clubs in the entire world, Barcelona. But before arriving in Spain, Neymar had international duty over the summer as Brazil played in the Confederations Cup, and Neymar showed up. He scored 4 goals, being named the player of the tournament as Brazil beat Spain 3-0 to win his first major trophy for the national team. He was the golden boy of the national team, and it looked like he was set to lead them to glory for the next decade. But as we all know, that's not quite what happened, with bad luck and bad habits getting in the way of it all. But more on that later. As it stood, Neymar Jr. was the latest Barcelona signing. He was the golden boy in Brazil 1 year out of the World Cup, which they were hosting, and he had just placed 5th in the Ballon d'Or. And believe it or not, the story of Neymar was still only getting started. It took 92 million euros to bring Neymar to Barcelona, making him one of the most expensive players in the world for the first time in his career. Real Madrid were also trying to get their hands on him that summer for the second time and had even been willing to pay more. On the pitch, Neymar started the season by winning the Supercopa de España, scoring the only Barcelona goal of the two-leg match against Atletico. But overall, he failed to live up to the hype and said that for the first season, he felt like he was playing with butterflies in his stomach. He was playing with the likes of Messi, Iniesta, Puyol. Can you really blame him? But still, he still scored 15 goals in what was a rare trophyless season for Barcelona, apart from that Supercopa. But despite the disappointing season by their standards, they were silently building what would be the deadliest attack in football history, and Neymar was ready to grow into a central figure in that team. But before we head into the famous treble-winning season, Neymar headed off to the World Cup, hosted in Brazil, with the weight of the world on his shoulders. He was Brazil's talisman, their star player, and boy did he show it, scoring 4 goals in the group stage as Brazil cruised into the knockouts. They beat Chile on penalties in the round of 16, making it to the quarterfinals, which is when disaster struck for the entire nation. Neymar went to challenge for the ball, but was kneed in the back and fractured his vertebrae, meaning just like that, he left the pitch on a stretcher and his World Cup run was over. Brazil lost their star boy, and things just weren't the same after that. They still got through to the semifinals, but in possibly the most humiliating day in Brazilian football history, they crashed out after a 7-1 demolition job by Germany. Neymar was the diamond in the team, and without him, they lost their soul. This injury was one of the first in Neymar's career, but it was a sign of what was yet to come, as time and time again, it would be recurring injuries that just kept him one step away from becoming the best player in the world. But for now, he headed back to Spain and was ready back in action for the start of the next season. And with Luis Enrique at the helm of Barcelona, they were about to take it to a whole new level. Now, I have a question for you. What do you think happens when you put the most skillful player in the world, the deadliest striker in the world, and the best player in the world all in the same front three? Well, you get MSN, and the 2014-15 season was about to unfold. Neymar started with a bang, scoring 3 goals in his first 100 minutes of football, and despite having just recovered from an ankle sprain, he scored 11 goals in his first 11 league appearances. In the Copa del Rey, he was flying also because Neymar scored twice in the quarters, twice in the semis, and once in the final as Barcelona won the cup, showing the most insane skills and dribbles along the way. Looking over at La Liga, Neymar bagged 22 goals as Barcelona edged Real Madrid out to the title by 2 points, making that a domestic double for the season. But it was the Champions League where Neymar really showed his worth, scoring 10 goals overall, making that the joint most for season, including 3 in the quarterfinals, 3 in the semifinals, and 1 in the final against Juventus as Barcelona completed the treble, and Neymar edged his name into football history as one of the focal points of the deadliest attack in the history of football. Neymar finished the season with 39 goals, and MSN together scored an insane 122 goals. But while Neymar won everything possible for his club that season, he did not win many individual plaudits, and that was due to the M in MSN. While Neymar came 3rd in the Ballon d'Or, his best rank so far, he couldn't surpass Messi, who won the award for a 5th time. And whilst this may not have been a big problem yet, Neymar was starting to feel the shadow he was in and started to wonder whether playing in Barcelona he would ever be able to escape it and really fulfill his potential to become the best player in the world. I mean, all the talk at the time was how Neymar was the prince to take over from Messi and Ronaldo, so surely this was playing on the Brazilian's mind. But in football, you never know what is around the corner. And just 6 games into the next La Liga season, Messi suffered a knee injury that would keep him out of action for 2 months and give Neymar a chance to really step up. And boy, did he shine, as Neymar hit the form of his life, even scoring 4 goals in a single game against Rayo Vallecano and managing to score 13 goals and get 9 assists in just 8 games, leading pundits to say he was the best player in the world at this time, and some of his goals were just insane, like this one against Villarreal, where he flicked the ball over his shoulder and volleyed it in. And these weren't just goals against the small teams, because he was also instrumental in a 4-0 win over Real Madrid, scoring and doing a backheel assist for Andres Iniesta.
Iniesta. Nice layoff, Iniesta! Magnificent finish!
But of course, Messi did come back and Neymar was once again in his shadow as Barcelona won La Liga and the Copa del Rey for a domestic double, whilst Real Madrid won the Champions League, meaning Cristiano Ronaldo picked up the Ballon d'Or for that year, as Neymar, yet again, dreamt of being named the best in the world. That summer, Neymar didn't get any rest as Brazil were hosting the Olympics, and the goal was simple: bring Olympic glory to his country, because whilst this was not a World Cup, it was still a trophy worth winning. He scored in the quarterfinal against Colombia and bagged a brace against Honduras in the semis before scoring his 4th of the tournament in the final against Germany, which finished 1-1 and went to penalties. Neymar stepped up to take the 5th and final spot kick for Brazil and scored to win Brazil an Olympic gold medal, which would prove to be the biggest international success of his career. But the Olympics took their toll on Neymar, who missed the start of the 2016-17 season and only managed 14 league goals in total as Barcelona finished 2nd in La Liga. In the Champions League, though, we probably witnessed the greatest comeback in the history of the tournament, spearheaded by none other than Neymar himself, as Barcelona overturned a 4-0 loss in the first leg of the quarterfinals against PSG by coming back to win 6-1 in the second, where Neymar scored 2 late goals and assisted to save the day for his club. But still, the club slumped out of the tournament in the quarterfinals, only winning the Copa del Rey. Now, Neymar is 25 years old, ready to enter the prime years of a football player, and he was really starting to believe he would never escape the shadow of Messi whilst he remained in Barcelona. Suarez and Messi pleaded for him to stay, telling him he will win a Ballon d'Or whilst playing there, but there were other opportunities calling out for Neymar, specifically one over in Paris, as PSG wanted to take their spending to the next level and finally go on to win the Champions League, meaning they prepared a world record €222 million bid to bring the superstar winger over to France, and just like that, MSN lost Neymar, and he was hoping finally he was going to take his rightful place as the best football player in the world. But unfortunately, that wouldn't be so straightforward. Now, obviously, with a transfer fee like that, Neymar was about to receive the paycheck of a lifetime, or so he thought, as his contract at PSG would make him the 2nd highest paid footballer in the world. But while everyone believed the move was to get out from under Messi's shadow and prove how good he was, Neymar's father denied that the move was to improve Neymar's Ballon d'Or chances, and Neymar also said it was partly because many of his Brazilian teammates were at PSG at the time. But the move elevated PSG to a new level and gave Neymar the chance to become a legend at the club if he could deliver a Champions League title. And Neymar started at PSG on fire, scoring on his debut, and said, "People think leaving Barcelona is to die, but I'm more alive than ever." And he had become part of a new deadly trio, not MSN, but CNM, Cavani, Neymar, and Mbappé. And Neymar's hot form put him back in the Ballon d'Or race, finishing in 3rd again, behind, of course, Messi and Ronaldo. And in January, he again bagged 4 goals in a single game against Dijon, including this awesome solo dribble. By the end of February, he had amassed 28 goals and 16 assists in 30 games. But then disaster struck, because just as he was proving that he could shine without Messi, Neymar fractured his metatarsal, ending his season early in what would be one of the many injuries that would come at the worst time. Luckily, he recovered in time to play for Brazil at the 2018 World Cup, where he scored twice and got 2 assists as Brazil once again fell short, this time to Belgium in the quarterfinals. But Neymar's involvement in the World Cup was remembered not for his playing ability, but instead for his rolling around on the floor against Serbia, which was so bad that it became a viral meme, to the point that an actual English newspaper calculated he spent 14 minutes of the tournament clutching his ankle. But all those theatrics were due to the huge number of fouls and injuries he has suffer throughout his career. You see, there was two ways to look at it. A dribbler of his quality got so many knocks and hits throughout the last decade that surely he was more vulnerable. But also, he was a bit of a baby. But anyway, by his own high standards, the next season was a disaster because although he scored almost 1 goal a game up until Christmas and became the top scoring Brazilian ever in the Champions League, another metatarsal fracture stopped Neymar from performing at the business end of the season, and without him, PSG were once again eliminated early from the Champions League. And off the pitch, Neymar got involved in controversy after controversy, including appearing to punch a fan in the face after defeat in the Coupe de France final and skipping the end of season awards to party with Rihanna. Okay, we can excuse this last one, but the lack of game time coupled with the off-the-pitch controversies meant he was not even nominated for the Ballon d'Or. And to cap off a nightmare season, Neymar couldn't even impress for Brazil, as an ankle ligament injury ruled him out of the Copa America, meaning that the one time Brazil won the tournament during his career, Neymar had to watch it on TV. And all this led to Neymar feeling that France didn't appreciate him and even had a vendetta against him, leading to reports he would leave PSG and return to Barcelona, or perhaps even join Real Madrid. And to make matters even worse, Neymar left Barcelona to escape Messi's shadow, but with the amount of injuries he was getting, he was somewhat falling into the shadow of Kylian Mbappé, his new teammate, meaning life was just not going his way. But instead of leaving, he chose to stay at PSG and had his biggest season yet. Fitness issues and the Champions League suspension meant it was a late start for Neymar, who didn't play until PSG's 5th league game, and he also missed several games with a hamstring injury and bruised ribs. But in the 15 league matches he did play before the Ligue 1 season was cut short due to COVID, Neymar scored 13 and got 6 assists as PSG won the league, the cup, and the League Cup to do the domestic treble. But the 2019-20 season was all about the Champions League, and when Neymar could finally play, he helped PSG get past Borussia Dortmund with 2 vital goals in the round of 16 and grabbed an assist to push PSG past Atalanta in the quarterfinals. PSG then beat Leipzig 3-0 in the semis to set up a final against Bayern Munich. But unfortunately, PSG lost that match 1-0, and while it was the furthest Paris Saint-Germain had got in the competition so far in their history, the defeat left Neymar distraught, as he had come so close just to miss out on bringing greatness to Paris. And pundits agreed, with many saying he was the top player of the season, but typically, the Ballon d'Or was cancelled due to COVID, so there's no knowing whether Neymar could have beaten his previous third-place finishes. The following season saw Neymar pick up so many injuries and suspensions that it took him until May before he could play more than 3 league games in a row. First, he had COVID, then got a red card, then had adductor pain, then ankle problems. But despite this, he still managed a goal every 2 games and got 2 big assists against Bayern Munich to push PSG to the Champions League semi-finals. He still tried his tricks and flicks and even got booked in a game against Montpellier for trying a rainbow flick over an opponent, but all of Neymar's absences cost Paris Saint-Germain dearly as they missed out on the Ligue 1 title, finishing second behind Lille. And if Neymar had moved to PSG to be the main man, then that summer he was in for a shock as PSG signed his former teammate/rival Lionel Messi, making Neymar the peanut in PSG's M&M attack with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappé. And by this time, Kylian Mbappé had become such a superstar in Paris that Neymar was not even the second in the trio, but the third. And he, of course, started the season with fitness issues and only scored once in the first 12 games of the season, and then an ankle injury would keep him out for all of the winter. So, after such a disappointing season, there were once again rumors of Neymar's departure. But the thing was that when Neymar is fit, he can still be a world beater, and he showed that at the start of the 22-23 season when he scored 7 goals and got 6 assists in the first 5 games, and was even praised by the head coach Christophe Galtier for playing the best form of his time at PSG, and that form came just in time for the 2022 World Cup. But unfortunately for Neymar, Brazil's opening match was against Serbia, who fouled him 9 times throughout the game, and one heavy tackle led to Neymar damaging his ankle ligaments, meaning he missed the rest of the group stage. He returned and scored in the round of 16 against South Korea and got Brazil's only goal in the draw against Croatia in the quarterfinals, but Brazil would lose on penalties, and Neymar would once again miss out on a major international trophy. And not long after that, an ankle injury against Lille would mean Neymar would miss the rest of the season too, as he just went from one disaster to another. That would be the last time he would play for PSG, who had a complete squad overhaul, even getting rid of Messi. And while there were glimpses of his genius at PSG, injuries meant Neymar only managed to play more than 30 games a season during his time in Paris, and Neymar even said, "I was in a position to win the Ballon d'Or, but injuries made it difficult." But while he was linked with a return to Barcelona, Neymar's high wage demands and injury record weighed heavily on any club looking to sign him. So when a huge offer came in from Saudi Arabia, Neymar took it. And at that point, Saudi Arabia had attracted some of the biggest stars, from Cristiano Ronaldo to Karim Benzema, but the biggest club in Saudi Arabia, Al Hilal, needed a statement signing of their own. And they targeted Neymar, offering him $150 million a year to be the jewel in their crown. This was a statement by Neymar, almost a step down from the top of football, in admission he was no longer looking to be the best in the world as he chased the money over glory, and the story just gets sadder from here. Neymar arrived in Saudi Arabia with a slight injury, and it took him until September before he played his first match, getting 2 assists in 26 minutes. And around that time, he would play 4 games for Brazil, including a 5-1 win over Bolivia, where he would score his 78th and 79th goals for his country, making him Brazil's all-time top goal scorer, ahead of even the legendary Pelé. And he would also get his 58th assist, which is the joint most of any footballer in international football. But in a match against Uruguay, he would go from these heights to the lowest point possible as he tore his ACL, and this injury would rule him out for the rest of the season, as once again, bad luck and injuries prevented Neymar from shining, as he had only played 5 games for Al Hilal at that point, and while he did play a few minutes in 2 games the following season in the Asian Champions League, his time in Saudi Arabia came to an abrupt end with the head coach Jorge Jesus saying Neymar can no longer perform at the level we're used to, and his huge cost for the club of almost 400 million euros for around 420 minutes of football meant Al Hilal paid Neymar almost €1 million per minute of football, causing many to label the move as the worst signing in the history of football. So, after this mess, Neymar decided to return to a club where he was loved and where he made a name for himself. He returned to Santos, and despite more injuries, Neymar seems to have found some of his form back at his hometown club, but still nothing compared to the beautiful football we saw his first time at Santos. Now 33 years old, it looks pretty clear that Neymar's career at the top of the game is over. And despite many labeling him as the prince who never became the king, I prefer to remember him as one of the most skillful players football has ever seen, and a player who inspired millions to play football the right way. What a legend. Now, which version of Cristiano Ronaldo do you think was the best? Some say it was his early years in Madrid.
Oh, you beauty!
Others might say it was during the three-peat. But for me, no football player in history comes close to the 07-08 version of Ronaldo.
Now Ronaldo. Long way out. What a goal! Not too far out.
At 23 years old, this man was without a doubt the deadliest winger the world has ever seen, and literally no defender could stop him. But to get to this point, his story was even more impossible than it seems. As a child, he had to beg for food, sweep the streets, and was even diagnosed with a heart defect that should have ended his life before it even began. So, in order to understand how Ronaldo became the most terrifying winger in the history of the game, we have to start from the very beginning. February 5th, 1985. Cristiano Ronaldo was born on the Portuguese island of Madeira, located over 1,000 kilometers from Lisbon. He's the youngest of 4 children, but he was almost not even born at all, as his family was extremely poor, and his father was an alcoholic, which caused a lot of strain on the family. So his mother wanted to have Ronaldo aborted, as she simply couldn't afford to look after him. The doctors didn't allow her to go through with it, but she still made her own attempts by drinking warm beer and running long distances. But God had a plan for Cristiano. So, just like that, the boy was born. His early years were still very tough, with his mother working as a cook and a cleaner just to make ends meet, and her children often had to join her when she was sweeping the streets, while Ronaldo's dad suffered from mental health issues. He was a former soldier who was shipped off to fight in Angola, where the soldiers would drink beer rather than untreated water, causing Ronaldo's dad to become an alcoholic, and his alcoholism made it hard for him to hold down a job. Ronaldo had to share a room with his siblings, and the only time he could escape from his worries was when he was playing street football with makeshift goals on the dirty roads of his hometown. He would even skip meals and skip school to play street football, and was so poor that his first football was made of rags. Ronaldo would often cry when things didn't go his way, both on the pitch and off it, giving him the nickname Crybaby. But his hatred of losing meant he kept pushing himself to be a better footballer, and his father eventually found a job as a kitman for Andorinha in the 5th tier of Portuguese football, and this meant that at the age of 7, Ronaldo landed himself a spot in the youth academy, where he very quickly stood out. out, winning individual awards in local football tournaments and earning the nickname Abelinha, or Little B, for his small size and quick speed. And soon he would make his first transfer to Clube Desportivo Nacional, one of the biggest clubs on the island. But the transfer fee for Cristiano Ronaldo was far from the millions he would command in his later career. This transfer was just 20 footballs and some equipment for his former team. Talk about a bargain! By that time, people were starting to notice him, with his childhood friend Jose Semedo saying that at every tournament he went from the age of 10, he was named the best player. And it wasn't long before Sporting Lisbon would visit the island, set a challenge for the youth academy. The player who scores the most goals gets a spot in the academy. By the end of the match, Ronaldo was tied on goals with his friend Albert Fantau, but his friend then passed Ronaldo the ball to let him score and win the academy spot, with Fantau saying he knew Ronaldo could go all the way. So, Sporting signed Ronaldo for €1,500, and young Cristiano would have to say goodbye to his former life and move to Sporting's famous Academia de Albacete on the mainland 1,000 kilometers away from home. But life in Lisbon was not easy, and Ronaldo was bullied by his teammates, often having physical confrontations with them as he struggled to control his emotions. Ronaldo felt homesick, and he was so poor that he even had to beg for food at his local McDonald's. He'd wait outside late at night for leftover burgers till around 11 p.m., and luckily, a few employees took pity on him and gave him some free burgers. At school, Ronaldo's classmates mocked his Madeira accent and bullied him for being different, but this only made Ronaldo even more determined to succeed, and he spent all his free time working hard to be the best footballer possible. Ronaldo was so competitive that he would race his friends to the gym, and when he'd lose, he wouldn't talk to them for days. He struggled in school though, and at one point threw a chair at a teacher who he thought had disrespected him, but this got him expelled from school, meaning he only had one option left: make it pro or live the rest of his life in poverty. His mom said if he didn't make it as a footballer, he would have become a bricklayer, and many of his coaches thought this was the best case for him, as they said he was too skinny and weak to make it as a footballer, and soon he would receive some news that would almost end his career before it got started. At age 15, Cristiano Ronaldo had a major health scare as he was diagnosed with a rare heart condition called tachycardia, which happens when the heart beats too fast, beating at a resting rate of more than 100 beats a minute. This was devastating news for Ronaldo, as it meant he might have to quit being a footballer, but instead, Sporting made a dramatic decision to try to save his career by getting doctors to operate on the 15-year-old and use a laser to cauterize parts of his heart, and thankfully, the operation was a success, so much so that he was back on the pitch just days after surgery, and it wasn't long before his dedication finally started paying off, because when he was 16, Cristiano was promoted up through the ranks of Sporting's youth teams, becoming the first player to play with the club's under-16 team, under-17 team, under-18 team, B team, and senior team, all in one season. By August 2002, he made his senior debut for Sporting in the Champions League qualifying round against Inter Milan, where he came on in the 58th minute and showed off his dribbling skills on the wing, with his raw talent being on display. His coach Ladislav Baloni thought that he was dribbling too much and that he had to fight with Ronaldo to stop him dribbling, but already Baloni could see that Ronaldo was a born competitor with a special maturity for his age, so he decided Ronaldo would stay with the senior team, and he believed that as long as he avoided injuries, he would be a very good player. Ronaldo was lightning quick and could dribble through the entire team single-handedly, but he was very skinny, weighing only 60 kilograms, meaning he was going to struggle to hold his own against big defenders. But still, Ronaldo soon made his league debut for Sporting, coming off the bench against Braga, and in his next game against Moreirense, he would start the match, and in his first start, Ronaldo would score his first and second goals for Sporting in a 3-0 win. He went on to finish that season with 11 starts in the league and 14 appearances off the bench, and with a total of 5 goals and 6 assists in all competitions, but already it was clear he was destined for bigger things. So Ronaldo's new agent Jorge Mendes started offering him around to Europe's top clubs. Barcelona rejected him, Liverpool rejected him, and the only club to show interest at this time was Arsenal, but the deal fell through, and in a few years Arsene Wenger's side would really be living to regret that. But now, it wouldn't be long for Cristiano to play in one match that would change his entire life, but believe me, the struggles were far from over. Now, if you're enjoying the story so far, I promise it gets so much crazier with more drama, heartache, and ultimately glory. But first, if you really think Ronaldo is the greatest of all time, subscribe, because I think so too. And it seems like so did Sir Alex Ferguson, but at this point in the story, he just saw the raw potential, because Manchester United were keeping close tabs on Ronaldo, with assistant manager Carlos Queiroz recommending him to Alex Ferguson even before Ronaldo had made his debut. But United at this time were trying very hard to sign Ronaldinho, as he he was one of the best wingers in the world, but they just couldn't get that deal over the line. It was then a pre-season friendly where United faced Sporting, where Ronaldo started and stole the show. He wasn't even supposed to play in this game, but Sporting had sold their main winger Quaresma just a week earlier, meaning he was next in line. And after the game ended, the entire Manchester United team was begging Ferguson to sign him. Michael Silvestre said, at the start, no one had even heard of Ronaldo, but by the end, everyone knew about him. So before United left Lisbon, Ferguson spoke with Ronaldo and Jorge Mendes while the players waited on the coach for more than an hour, while Ferguson fast-tracked negotiations to make sure that no other club could sign Ronaldo before United, and it was Ferguson's personality that made Ronaldo choose to join the Red Devils, who initially planned to loan Ronaldo back to Sporting for one more season to help him develop as a footballer. But after his incredible performance, they decided to bring him straight to Manchester. This was a key decision because Barcelona were still interested in Ronaldo but wanted to wait one more year before signing, so eventually, when Ferguson got on the team coach and was asked by the Manchester United players if he had signed Ronaldo, Ferguson just smiled. It was just a matter of days until the deal was sealed and Cristiano Ronaldo arrived in Manchester to sign for United for £12 million, which was at the time the most expensive fee paid by a British club for a teenage footballer, as the rise to the top was set to kick off, but the pressure was about to get so much bigger. Ronaldo had worn the number 28 shirt at Sporting and actually chose that number at United too, but Ferguson refused. He decided an 18-year-old Ronaldo was worthy of the iconic number 7 jersey, which had been worn by United legends such as George Best, Eric Cantona, and David Beckham. So immediately there were huge expectations and pressure for the 18-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo, who said, "I was forced to live up to such an honor." But his move was so rushed and unexpected that he didn't have any time to prepare, so he arrived in Manchester unable to speak any English, and with an accent like Fergie's, communication was going to be impossible. Still, it wouldn't be long until Ronaldo made his debut for Manchester United in the first game of the season against Bolton Wanderers, and while Ronaldo started on the substitutes bench, he was brought on for the last 29 minutes of the match and played so well that Manchester United legend George Best said it was undoubtedly the most exciting debut performance I've ever seen, saying that Ronaldo was genuinely two-footed and that he dealt well with the physical side of the game as United won 4-0, and Ronaldo won a penalty with his dribbling skills. And after the game, even no-nonsense Bolton manager Sam Allardyce was praising him, saying Ronaldo changed the game. And a few days later, he would also make his international debut for the Portugal senior team, playing the second half of a friendly match against Kazakhstan after replacing captain Luis Figo at halftime. The following month, Ronaldo would make his first Premier League start for United against Charlton Athletic, and a few days later, he would make his first start in the Champions League group stage against Stuttgart. And at that time, he was used on both the left wing and the right wing, and it was on the right wing where he would score his first Premier League goal with a free kick against Portsmouth before getting an assist a few minutes later as United won 3-0. But while Ronaldo was being praised by George Best, he was being slammed by the English media for his elaborate stepovers and a perception that he was showing off, with BBC pundit Alan Hansen saying he's got the tricks and party pieces, but they're not much good unless there's something at the end of it all. And all of Ronaldo's silky skills and dyed blonde hair made him a target for defenders who wanted to injure him, even from his first match for United when opposition defender Nicky Hunt admitted later that, with one of his first touches, I put him on the deck. In his first season at United, Ronaldo was full of tricks but didn't score many goals or get many assists, with teammate Paul Scholes saying, "He used to drive you up the wall because he's doing all these tricks and flicks, but we wanted to see people score goals and make goals." And he was still too skinny for the physical Premier League, so he used to put weights on his ankles in training to get stronger. But Scholes wasn't the only United player frustrated with Ronaldo, as Manchester United star striker Ruud van Nistelrooy was also losing patience with the Portuguese winger, saying that he had a telepathic bond with David Beckham, but after Ronaldo came in, it was different, as he would dribble everywhere and be unpredictable, and he would often berate Ronaldo in training for not crossing the ball, and eventually Van Nistelrooy got so frustrated that he exploded at Ronaldo in a verbal attack that could destroy any young player's confidence. For Ferguson, it was like Van Nistelrooy had attacked his own son, and this would prove to be the end of his career at United, as Fergie opted to protect Cristiano, shifting the Dutch striker out of the club. That's a couple of years down the line. In that first season, Cristiano only scored 6 goals and was still adapting to the English game, as Manchester United struggled throughout the season, finishing 15 points off Arsenal, who had just gone invincible. This was a transitional period for United. Beckham had left, the treble-winning team was aging, and the future of the club was being placed in 2 young superstars in Rooney and Ronaldo, both of whom were still just teenagers. Ronaldo also had an electric Euro campaign in the summer of 2004, where he made it to the final and was named named in the team of the tournament, as he was now being talked about as the best young player in the world, but still, he was far from the finished article. Ronaldo started slowly in his second season at United and didn't even score a Premier League goal until December, with even Manchester United's official website saying his second term didn't quite live up to his first, and at this stage, it was unclear whether the young player would reach his full potential. Sometimes, his attempts to try to do too much on the pitch angered his manager, with Ferguson once even giving Ronaldo the famous hairdryer treatment, yelling, "Who do you think you are?" and making Ronaldo cry in the dressing room in front of his teammates. But this was because Ferguson knew Ronaldo's potential and also knew that talent alone wasn't enough, and it's this tough love that would help Cristiano become a great, as Sir Alex forced him to confront his weaknesses and work even harder to be the best. But whilst trying to make it in Manchester, life was about to get a lot harder for Cristiano. At the start of his third season at United, while on international duty, Portugal head coach Luis Felipe Scolari had to pass on some terrible news that Ronaldo's father had passed away. Scolari said nobody knew how to tell him and nobody wanted to. So, Scolari had to break the news to Ronaldo, who was determined to play despite the heartbreaking news, and said, "I can't do anything for my father today, so I'll play tomorrow." Just 20 years old at the time, Ronaldo had to deal with the death of his father, who, after a lifetime of drinking, passed away from a liver problem in 2005. And although Ronaldo said, "I never really knew him well," he would have liked to know him better and has struggled to talk about the subject, even breaking down in tears on TV when seeing a video of his late father telling him how proud he was of him. And he has said he keeps his father's ashes with him at his house and talks to them all the time to help him be a better person. That third season at Old Trafford, Ronaldo again started slowly and was letting his frustrations get the better of him, as he was also banned for one match by UEFA for showing his middle finger to Benfica fans who abused him in a Champions League match, with Ronaldo saying, "There's nothing to justify the way the crowd treated me." But after that, he hit a purple patch in February, scoring 5 goals in 3 games and finished the season with 12 goals overall, as United finished second behind Chelsea. And Ronaldo's form was starting to become more consistent, but it wasn't enough for Ruud van Nistelrooy, whose frustrations at Ronaldo caused him to lose his temper in training one day and shout, "What are you going to do? Complain to your daddy?" Which, although it was referring to United coach Carlos Queiroz, still reminded Ronaldo of his father's death 8 months earlier and caused him to break down in tears. And that incident was the last straw, as Ferguson decided the two couldn't play together and decided to sell Van Nistelrooy to Real Madrid that summer. So Ronaldo would have to instead build a partnership with Wayne Rooney, and that was put in jeopardy that summer at the World Cup in an incident that would make Cristiano Ronaldo become the most hated man in England. Portugal started the World Cup with 3 wins in Group D, and Ronaldo became the youngest player to score for Portugal at the World Cup when he scored a penalty against Iran. A win against the Netherlands set up a quarterfinal showdown against England in an extremely tight game that went in Portugal's favor after Ronaldo's Manchester United teammate Wayne Rooney stamped on Ricardo Carvalho and was sent off. But Ronaldo was one of the Portuguese players trying to get the referee to send Rooney off, and then a TV camera caught him winking at the Portuguese bench, causing English media to suggest he had influenced the referee. And after Portugal beat England on penalties, anger against Ronaldo was so high that one newspaper even published a dartboard with his face on it and reported that Rooney would snap Ronaldo in two the next time they trained together. Ronaldo was so unhappy in England at that point that he even told a Portuguese newspaper, "I don't want to stay in England." But his teammates at United had his back, with Rooney already talking to Ronaldo after the game and understanding why Ronaldo tried to get him sent off, saying that he would do the same. So he told Ronaldo good luck for the rest of the tournament. And when Ronaldo returned to United after the summer, he was a changed man and had even grown stronger in the summer by hitting the gym. And when he was back at Manchester United's Carrington training ground, Rooney said, "This is in the past. Let's speak about the present. Let's win trophies together." And that season, even though fans booed him at every Premier League stadium he visited, Cristiano Ronaldo had his best season so far, scoring 23 goals, including 6 in 3 games in December, as Manchester United won the Premier League for the first time in 4 years. But that wasn't enough for Ronaldo, who wanted to be even better, and even told United coach René Meulensteen that he wanted to be the best player in the world. So he analyzed video clips and worked on how to improve his striking ability, spending hours working on his positioning and his finishing from all different angles, and also developed his legendary free kick technique. Meulensteen said Ronaldo always wanted to score the perfect goal, a 25-yard shot into the top corner, but he made Ronaldo work on shooting from other places and set him a target of 40 goals for the next season, almost double what he had scored the season before. And now, here we are, entering the greatest individual season in Premier League history, the version of Cristiano Ronaldo that lives in the heart of all football fans around the world. What a year! Some people forget that Ronaldo actually had a slow start to this season. He got a red card in the second game of the season for headbutting an opponent. Even when he came back from his ban, he didn't score until the last game of September. But then, he hit the best form of his career so far and smashed his target of 40 goals by scoring 42 goals that season and also getting 8 assists, giving him 50 goal contributions in 49 games, which for a striker is incredible. But Ronaldo wasn't even playing as a striker. He was still playing as a winger in a 4-4-2, which made that feat even more unbelievable. United went neck and neck with Chelsea in the Premier League, but even the strength of Chelsea couldn't stop Ronaldo, whose stunning partnership with Rudy tore teams to shreds, like Aston Villa, who United beat 4-0 with Ronaldo scoring with a back heel. And the battle between United and Chelsea went back and forth, with United second until March, when they took the top spot and held on with Chelsea right behind them, until Ronaldo scored a penalty on the final day of the season to seal their second Premier League title in a row. But this season got even more magical once we look at Europe. That season, Ronaldo scored one of his trademark headers against Roma in the Champions League quarterfinals, seemingly defying gravity. Then, in the semifinals against Barcelona, Ronaldo had the chance to give United the lead, but he missed a penalty. But United won the second leg 1-0 to reach the Champions League final in Moscow, where they faced Chelsea. And Ronaldo scored the opening goal for United with another towering header. Frank Lampard equalized, and the game would go to penalties in the Russian rain. Ronaldo missed his penalty, giving John Terry the chance to win the match for Chelsea. But God was on Ronaldo's side, as he slipped and missed his spot kick too. And then Nicolas Anelka also missed for Manchester United to win the European Champions League. This was the pinnacle of his career so far, the day he dreamed of his entire life, and he just wished his father could see it all happen. As the United players partied the night away, Ronaldo was back in the training pitch the very next day, because for him, this was only the start. Ronaldo's incredible performances that season would see him win the FIFA World Player of the Year award and also his first Ballon d'Or, where he would beat Lionel Messi and Liverpool's Fernando Torres. He also picked up pretty much every individual award you can think of in England, as he was named the best football player in the world. But despite being a hero at Old Trafford, Ronaldo was dreaming of the Bernabeu and even openly told his teammates he wanted to leave, saying he had been at United for long enough, and even suggested that United forcing him to stay was like slavery. And Manchester United made him train in a white training bib, as he wanted to wear the white of Real Madrid so badly, but they refused to sell him that summer. And Ronaldo said that while he wanted a new challenge, he would put his heart and soul into Manchester United for one more year. But all his hard work on the training ground had caused damage to his cartilage in his right ankle, and he needed surgery. So he ended up missing the start of the 2008-09 season, and United struggled without him, losing in the Community Shield and Super Cup and dropping to 15th place in the league. But when he came back, he scored 8 goals in 8 games to fire United up the table, and by January, United were top of the league, where they would stay until the end of the season to win their 3rd Premier League title in a row, thanks to 18 league goals and 7 assists from CR7. But it was the Champions League where Ronaldo would perform his real magic in the quarterfinals against Porto, where fans were booing the former Sporting player. He hit a shot from 40 yards out at an incredible 64 miles per hour right into the top corner to win the game for United and win Ronaldo the Puskas Award for the best goal of the year by any player in the world. He would then score twice in the semi-final against Arsenal to set up a final against Barcelona and a showdown against Lionel Messi in the only time the pair faced each other in the Champions League final. But unfortunately, it was Messi who was victorious on the night, with Barcelona winning 2-0 and Messi also winning that year's Ballon d'Or, with Ronaldo finishing second, as this game could be seen as the beginning of a decade-long battle between the pair. Following this final defeat, Cristiano Ronaldo managed to get the move to Real Madrid he had been longing for, and this did not come cheap, as they forked out a world record 94 million euros to make Ronaldo the most expensive and best played football player in the world. So, after 7 years at Old Trafford and going from a skinny show pony to the best player in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo said goodbye to Sir Alex and left the club that would forever hold a special place in his heart. But as you know, Ronaldo's story does not end here, and in fact, it's only just getting started. On the 26th of June 2009, Cristiano Ronaldo signed for a struggling unfailing Real Madrid side, and despite already being one of the best players in the world, over the next 9 years he left a legacy that literally nobody believed could be possible, because in a total of 438 games, he scored 450 goals, won 16 major trophies, and lifted the Ballon d'Or 4 times. And all of this happening when Lionel Messi and Barcelona were arguably at the peak of their powers. This is a story that simply shouldn't have been possible. These are games that shouldn't have been won, goals that shouldn't have been scored, but yet they were. And to understand how this all happened, we have to head to Santiago Bernabeu in the summer of 2009, as the stadium was packed in white with 80,000 fans crammed in to see one man, Cristiano Ronaldo.
And then
Moves inside Ronaldo!
absolutely brilliant.
His unveiling ceremony was attended by more fans than any other unveiling in football history, as Ronaldo stood in front of the fans and said, "I have made my childhood dream a reality." But at this time, he was not CR7, but instead started his Real Madrid career wearing the number 9 jersey. His £80 million fee was a world record, and his wages over the 6-year contract would total more than £100 million on top of that. And at this time, Real Madrid needed to spend huge money, as they were up against one of the greatest teams ever assembled, Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. That Barcelona team with Xavi and Andres Iniesta in midfield were dominating world football and had finished 9 points ahead of Real Madrid the previous season, and of course they had Lionel Messi up front, who was about to win his first Ballon d'Or, matching Ronaldo's 1 Ballon d'Or from his time at United. So Real Madrid had a huge task ahead of them when Ronaldo joined the club, and a rivalry that would span the next decade was about to be born. Now, Cristiano Ronaldo got off to a strong start at Real Madrid, scoring on his debut against Deportivo La Coruña, and then scoring 5 goals in his first 4 games, making him the first Real Madrid player to score in their first 4 La Liga matches, and he also scored 2 goals in both of his first 2 Champions League games for Madrid. But then, while on international duty, he suffered an ankle injury that would keep him out for the next 6 La Liga matches, and Real would lose one of those and draw another before Ronaldo would return for his first El Clasico ever. But he could only manage 65 minutes of the game, as Madrid would lose 1-0. As the season progressed, Ronaldo struggled to find his form over the winter, scoring just twice in December and twice in January in La Liga, and even getting sent off against Malaga, until finally Ronaldo would hit top form in February, scoring or getting an assist in all but 3 games in the rest of that La Liga season. But one of those blanks again came against Barcelona, who did the double over Madrid, and that second loss to Barcelona would prove costly, as Real Madrid would finish the season on 96 points, just 3 points behind their rivals from Catalunya, and there was little luck for Madrid in cup competitions either, as they would lose in the last 16 of the Champions League against Lyon, Alcorcon. In this injury-plagued season, Ronaldo wasn't even Real Madrid's top scorer in La Liga, scoring 26 goals, 1 fewer than Gonzalo Higuain, and Ronaldo's total in all competitions was 33, far behind Messi's 47 for the campaign. As it stood, Ronaldo was performing well, but far below his expectations for himself. But if one thing is for sure, during his time in Real Madrid, he would age like fine wine, because he arguably just got better year after year, with 2 main eras being clear in Real Madrid. The first being the takedown of this Guardiola side, and the second being the 3-peat team, where he cemented himself as one of the greatest of all time. But for now, things would go from bad to worse, because that summer saw more misery in the World Cup, as Ronaldo would score just 1 goal against North Korea. Portugal would be eliminated by Spain in the round of 16, but that same summer, Spanish legend Raúl would leave Real Madrid, leaving his shirt number vacant, meaning Ronaldo could finally pick the number 7 jersey, and CR7 was born again. And there was one more change at Real Madrid, as head coach Manuel Pellegrini was replaced by the special one, Jose Mourinho, who was fresh off the back of a treble where he defeated Barcelona on the way to the Champions League final, and now he came into Los Blancos with the sole goal of ending this Pep Guardiola dynasty, and with Ronaldo by his side, things were about to get very, very interesting. But very quickly, before we get to the Mourinho and Ronaldo era, I just really want to ask you to subscribe and let me know which version of Cristiano Ronaldo you think is the best, because we're about to see some terrifying versions of this man, as Mourinho was about to turn him into a monster. But still, Ronaldo would get off to a slow start in the 2010-11 season under Mourinho, scoring just 1 in his first 5 La Liga games, but then he would hit a hot streak, scoring 10 goals in 4 games, including 4 goals in a single game against Racing Santander, before a few games later scoring a hat-trick against Bilbao in what at the time was Real Madrid's best ever start to a league season. But Real's unbeaten start to the season would hit a giant snag as they got humiliated 5-0 by Barcelona in the Camp Nou, in a game that saw Barcelona dominate so much with their famous tiki-taka style that one of their goals would involve a 22-pass build-up, and that match would be one of 4 losses that season, although Ronaldo didn't play in 2 of those games, but he did play in the Copa del Rey, where he reached his first final with Real Madrid, and they would face Barcelona as part of an unprecedented run of 4 El Clásicos in just 18 days. This was so significant because these 4 Clásicos could have decided a treble as they were fighting it out in all 3 competitions. In the Cup, Ronaldo would be the victor, getting a header in extra time to win the match 1-0 and win his first club trophy at Real Madrid. After the game, he would say, "We are very happy. Madrid had not won this trophy in many years," but just a few days later, they would face Barcelona again, this time in the Champions League, where Madrid would lose 2-0 at home, getting knocked out by Messi and Barcelona, who would eventually go on to lift the trophy. And to make matters even worse, Barcelona also went on to lift the La Liga title, meaning, yet again, Ronaldo was outshined by Lionel Messi, who went on to lift his 3rd Ballon d'Or, making it 3-1 to the little Argentine. But Cristiano Ronaldo did manage to finish top scorer in La Liga, being the first player to break the 40-goal barrier for the season. Now, as the 11-12 season rolled around next season, Ronaldo would really hit top form, starting the 2011-12 La Liga season with a hat-trick against Real Zaragoza, but in the 3rd game of the season against Levante, he went off at halftime with an injury, and this was the only match Madrid lost until December, when they again lost to none other than Barcelona. After that, Madrid went unbeaten for the rest of the season and would face Barcelona again with 5 games left, where at the Camp Nou, Mourinho would finally neutralize Barcelona's tiki-taka football, and Ronaldo would score the winning goal to basically secure the title for Real Madrid, who finished with a record-breaking 100 points, finally winning La Liga for the first time in 4 years, with Ronaldo netting 46 goals in the league, including his 100th goal for Real Madrid and this absolute rocket of a goal against Osasuna. He finished the season on an incredible 60 goals in all competitions, but somehow Messi, in perhaps his best ever season, even topped that, hitting 73 goals and, once again, winning the Ballon d'Or. At this time, the Ronaldo-Messi rivalry was beginning to really heat up, with fans around the world taking sides, but to Cristiano, that was all just noise. He had more work to do because a league title was great, but both him and Real Madrid were chasing down that Champions League title, but they would have to wait a little longer to get there. As for the summer, he would show how good he was for Portugal, scoring 3 goals at Euro 2012 and being named in the team of the tournament as Portugal reached the semi-finals but ultimately fell short. Yet another competition Ronaldo was going to have to wait a little longer to win. Entering the 2012-13 season, Real Madrid looked like they fell apart from the previous year. Los Blancos only won 1 of their first 4 games, and something was clearly wrong, as Ronaldo didn't even celebrate when scoring twice in that win. And despite Ronaldo trying to get the season back on track with 9 goals in 5 games, Real Madrid slumped as low as 3rd for much of the season, and Ronaldo's relationship with Mourinho was becoming strained, with the head coach angry at CR7 for not doing enough defensively and saying he thinks he knows everything and the coach cannot help him develop further, and Ronaldo reportedly saying, "After all I've done for you, this is how you treat me?" As Real Madrid eventually finished with 85 points, far behind Barcelona. On a personal level, Ronaldo scored 55 goals in all competitions, including 12 Champions League goals, as Madrid again failed at the semi-final stage, but Ronaldo's leadership role at Los Blancos was starting to be recognized, as in a match against Real Sociedad, he became the first non-Spanish player in 60 years to captain Real Madrid. After this season of underperforming, Mourinho parted ways with Ronaldo at Los Blancos, but since leaving, has come out to talk about Ronaldo, saying, "Coaching him was the highlight of my career. He's the most professional player I've ever met," meaning love was definitely not lost between the 2 Portuguese stars. But as far as the managerial role, Mourinho would be replaced by Carlo Ancelotti, who was chosen by Madrid due to his record in the Champions League, because Madrid were obsessed with winning the famous trophy for the 10th time, with Ancelotti saying, "As soon as I arrived, it was the only thing that people would talk about." Cristiano Ronaldo was also obsessed with this. He hadn't won it since 2008 with Man United, and his obsession with being the best player in the world hadn't gone anywhere. The issue was just that Messi kept sweeping up the Ballon d'Or, but even without winning the Champions League or the La Liga title in that previous season, Ronaldo's individual performances were so brilliant that it landed him his 2nd Ballon d'Or for 2013. Now, when Carlo Ancelotti came in, he changed the way Ronaldo played, getting him to dribble less and pass less, and instead focus on creating close-range chances and scoring goals. And at this time, Real Madrid would sign Gareth Bale from Tottenham Hotspur to create the legendary BBC of Bale, Benzema, and Cristiano in an insanely attacking 3-4-3 formation. And Ronaldo started the 13-14 season strongly, scoring 17 goals in La Liga before the end of November, and then playing a crucial World Cup qualifier against Sweden, which was dubbed as Ronaldo versus Zlatan, with Zlatan Ibrahimovic scoring both Sweden's goals, but Ronaldo scored once in the first leg and then got a hat-trick in the second leg to secure Portugal's World Cup spot. Looking back to Spain, Real Madrid struggled in La Liga and ended up finishing third behind Barcelona and surprise champions Atletico Madrid, but Real would beat both those sides on the way to once again winning the Copa del Rey. And that season, Ronaldo would show up big time in the Champions League, scoring 9 in the group stage, including a hat-trick against Galatasaray and 4 against Schalke in the last 16. He'd score again against Dortmund, then get 2 goals in a 4-0 thrashing of Bayern Munich to set up a final against local rivals Atletico Madrid, the first time a Champions League final has been played between 2 teams in the same city, but it looked like a game too far for Real, who were losing 1-0 until the last minute of the match when Sergio Ramos scored to force extra time, where Real Madrid would score 3 more goals, with Ronaldo getting the final goal to seal the victory, finally giving Real Madrid La Decima, their much-desired 10th European Cup in their history, and making Ronaldo the first player to score in 2 finals for 2 different winning teams. And that season, he would finally smash Messi's goal total, with 51 goals to Messi's 41, giving him the European Golden Boot, and Ronaldo just carried that form into the next season with one of the hottest goal-scoring streaks of his career, at one point scoring 13 goals in just 5 games and 25 La Liga goals by the end of December. At his incredible form, won him his 3rd Ballon d'Or and took Real Madrid to the top of La Liga after 25 games, but then losses to Bilbao and Barcelona saw them drop to 2nd, but Ronaldo responded to that Barcelona defeat the only way he knows how, scoring 5 goals in a single game against Granada and scoring 3 hat-tricks in the final 4 games of the season to try and push Real Madrid over the line. But his 61 goals that season, including a crazy 48 in La Liga, weren't enough, as Real finished just 2 points behind Barcelona. After also falling short in the Champions League, Florentino Perez decided to call it quits on the Ancelotti project, especially after seeing the rise of MSN and Barcelona back on top of European football. Real Madrid tried their luck with Rafa Benitez in the 15-16 season, and they didn't have much of it, as they were disqualified from the Copa del Rey for unknowingly fielding an ineligible player, meaning Ronaldo couldn't add to his goal tally in that tournament, and Ronaldo had a bit of a slow start under Benitez, and despite once again scoring 5 goals in 1 game, this time against Espanyol, which actually made him Real's all-time top scorer, he hit 9 blanks in other matches, and even said he wanted to work with Ancelotti again. But by the end of December, Real had slumped to 3rd in the league, and Benitez was sacked after he failed to beat a Valencia team led by the one and only Gary Neville. There were reports that Ronaldo was to blame for Benitez's sacking, but Benitez later said there were no problems with Ronaldo. Now, Real Madrid had a decision to make. The league looked like it might be out of reach, but there was still the Champions League to win, and their new manager had to come and hit the ground running. They decided to take a gamble on an unproven manager, but a legend of the club in Zinedine Zidane. And with Ronaldo about to enter the form of his life, Real Madrid were about to enter the greatest era in modern-day football. Real Madrid began the Zidane era winning every La Liga game from the start of March till the end of the season, but finished second in the table. But we know Zizou is all about the Champions League, which is also where Ronaldo is at his best. And CR7 showed it by bagging hat-tricks against Shakhtar Donetsk and Wolfsburg, and 4 goals against Malmo as Real Madrid marched to the final, where they again faced Atletico Madrid. And again the game was tight, finishing 1-1, which meant the match went to penalties. And when Juan Fran missed for Atletico, there was only one man to step up and take the final spot kick, CR7, who scored to win the Champions League again for Los Blancos. And his goals in the Champions League that season made him the top Champions League goal scorer of all time. And that summer things just got even better for Ronaldo, as he would captain his country Portugal at Euro 2016, and Portugal were seen as massive underdogs. And that underdog status was clear to see as they drew all of their first 2 group games against Iceland and Austria, and against Hungary, Portugal were on the edge of elimination before 2 goals from Ronaldo brought the game back to 3-3, meaning Portugal squeezed into the last 16. And while head coach Fernando Santos' pragmatic approach might not have added many to Ronaldo's goal tally, it was effective in the knockout stages, and it was a team effort, with Ronaldo playing his part not as a superstar, but as his country's captain, as Portugal scraped past Croatia in extra time, then beat Poland on penalties before winning 2-0 against Wales in the semi-finals, with Ronaldo scoring Portugal's opener. But injury struck Cristiano Ronaldo in the final against France, and when that match went to extra time, Ronaldo was hobbling along the sidelines and acting more like the coach than the coach himself, shouting encouragement and tactical instructions to the players as they held on to beat France 1-0 and give Cristiano the national team trophy he craved, making him such an undisputed hero that his home island of Madeira even named an airport after him. And his triumph with Portugal would see him later that year win the first FIFA The Best award, as well as his fourth Ballon d'Or, drawing him one behind Lionel Messi. And Ronaldo's triumph with Portugal was followed up by one of his most successful seasons at Real Madrid, as the club won La Liga for the first time since 2012, with Ronaldo scoring 25 league goals. But Ronaldo's real calling was the Tuesday night lights of the Champions League, and in this season, he saved his Champions League goals for the absolute biggest of games. In the quarterfinals against Bayern Munich, Ronaldo scored twice in the first leg to give Madrid a 2-1 advantage and scored again in the second leg, but Munich forced the game into extra time. Ronaldo then scored twice again to complete his hat-trick and lead Madrid to a 4-2 victory. He then scored another hat-trick against Atletico Madrid in the semi-finals, which was his 7th hat-trick in the Champions League. That led to a final against the rock-solid defense of Juventus, who dominated the start of the game, but then Ronaldo got the crucial first goal on 20 minutes and would later score Real Madrid's third goal of the game to seal the 4-1 victory and win his third Champions League with Real Madrid. And of course, it's these big game performances that led to him winning his 5th Ballon d'Or, giving him 5 apiece with Lionel Messi, as the GOAT debate was reaching its peak with nothing to split the two. Now entering Ronaldo's 9th season in Real Madrid, the 2017-18 season saw Real Madrid struggle in La Liga, losing 6 games and finishing 3rd in the league. And at this time, Ronaldo's relationship with the Real Madrid hierarchy was becoming strained, with Ronaldo feeling underappreciated, saying, "I felt within the club that I was no longer considered in the same way as I was at the beginning." But yet again, Ronaldo proved he was unstoppable in the Champions League, scoring even more goals than the previous season. He got 9 goals in the group stage alone before getting 3 more in the last 16 against PSG and 3 goals in the quarterfinals against Juventus, including this spectacular bicycle kick. Madrid then beat Bayern in the semis and Liverpool in the final to give Ronaldo his 4th Champions League with Real Madrid and his 5th of his career, which at this point in time meant he was the only player in history with 5 Champions League winners' medals. But despite his huge trophy haul, Ronaldo didn't feel like Real Madrid, and especially club president Florentino Perez, appreciated him in the same way that Barcelona appreciated Messi or PSG appreciated Neymar, and he didn't receive enough support from the club over a tax dispute with the Spanish government that had caused him a lot of stress. He even told his agent that he regretted not leaving the previous summer, so Real Madrid said if a club offers 100 million euros, then he could leave. And while other huge clubs were interested, Juventus were the ones to make that offer, and Ronaldo was seduced by the idea of living in Italy and making history there, saying, "Juve have reached 2 finals. With me, they can win the Champions League." And with Zinedine Zidane also leaving, Ronaldo thought this was one of the little details that confirmed to me what I had been thinking about the situation at the club. Ronaldo also wanted to leave Madrid on a high, near the peak of his abilities, so that he would be remembered as a legend. So, just like that, his 9 years in Real Madrid came to an end. 33 years old, still performing at the highest level, as in the summer he scored a World Cup hat-trick for Portugal, making him the oldest player ever to do so. But with his Real Madrid legacy coming to an end, it's safe to say he's the greatest player in the history of that football club, and arguably the greatest football player of all time. How is it possible that at 33 years old, Cristiano Ronaldo moved to a brand new league, and despite being told he was too old, he still outscored everyone? And then, how is it possible that at 37 years old, Ronaldo returned to the hardest league in the world, and despite going through the worst trauma of his entire life, he was still one of the deadliest players in all of England? And now, how is it possible that at more than 40 dream of? This is the 3rd part of the story of Cristiano Ronaldo, and arguably the most insane, as, despite his growing age, increasing doubters, and serious personal struggles, he has still outplayed everyone. And this all began on the 10th of July 2018 as a 33-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo made a €100 million move to Juventus in what they described as the deal of the century. But despite the optimism on paper, this was a massive risk. Yes, Ronaldo was off the back of a world-class Champions League winning season with Real Madrid, but how many players can really go on past 33 and still dominate football? At the time, he was the fourth most expensive signing in football history, as only Neymar, Kylian Mbappé, and Felipe Coutinho had moved for bigger fees. And, unsurprisingly, the footballing world was skeptical. Ronaldo might have scored 44 goals in his final season at Real Madrid, but people were already calling him washed up. But Juventus knew better. They had found out that Madrid would accept a bid of roughly $100 million for Ronaldo, so Juventus president Andrea Agnelli went all out to bring CR7 to Italy, even flying to Greece to meet Ronaldo on holiday. Ronaldo, on the other hand, was ready to leave Real Madrid, saying, "I was no longer considered in the same way as I was at the beginning, having felt a loss of love from the club, so it was a perfect move for all parties." Juventus had been dominating Italy for years, but their squad was aging, and they desperately wanted to get their hands on a Champions League trophy, and that's why they saw Ronaldo as the perfect fit. As soon as Ronaldo's signing was confirmed, Juve's stock price went through the roof, climbing 33%. The club gained 10 million followers on social media platforms, and it more than doubled its shirt sponsorship deal. But despite the obvious brand value he brought, football is judged by what happens on the pitch, and the question remained, could a 33-year-old striker really move to a new league and dominate in the same way he used to? And quickly, the doubters would be given a reason to doubt some more, because Ronaldo didn't get off to the best of starts, because in his first 3 games, he didn't score a single goal, as Massimiliano Allegri kept switching Ronaldo's positions between a sole number 9 and a left winger, and even as part of a front 2, as he tried to incorporate both Ronaldo and Mario Mandzukic in his side. But finally, Ronaldo scored in his 4th game, tapping in a corner against Sassuolo in the 50th minute, before grabbing a second goal on the 65th minute as Juventus won their opening 4 Serie A games. But those 2 goals would quickly be forgotten, as things got even worse for Cristiano as he kicked off his Champions League campaign with a straight red card after just 29 minutes against Valencia. Ronaldo left the pitch in tears as he insisted he had done nothing wrong. But now the pressure was really starting to build for CR7 as expectations placed on him were just so high. But despite Ronaldo's slow start, Juventus won their first 8 matches in Serie A, with Ronaldo scoring 4 and getting 3 assists. And in the Champions League, after serving a 1-match ban, Ronaldo faced back-to-back games against his former club Manchester United, and in the second of those games, he got his first Champions League goal for Juventus, which was an absolutely insane volley. And back in Serie A, Juventus and Ronaldo went on a spectacular run, winning 8 more games in a row, with CR7 bagging 6 goals before finishing 2018 with a draw against Atalanta and a win over Sampdoria, with Ronaldo scoring 14 and getting 5 assists in the first half of the campaign. And just a few days later, Cristiano Ronaldo would win his first trophy for Juventus as the club traveled to Saudi Arabia to play AC Milan in the Supercoppa Italiana, with Ronaldo scoring the only goal of the game in Jeddah as Juventus won 1-0. And back in the Serie A, Juventus continued their unbeaten run, winning 6 of the next 7 games, with Ronaldo scoring 5 goals in that time as the old lady just dominated the Serie A. But come February, all focus was on the Champions League, because the world was about to witness one of the most dramatic games in Champions League history. Juve faced Atletico Madrid in the last 16 and suffered a disastrous 2-0 defeat at the Metropolitano, all but ending their Champions League hopes. If this was any other team with any other player, Atleti were going through. But Diego Simeone made one fatal error by mocking Cristiano after the game, and come the return fixture, Cristiano was not messing around. His towering header pulled 1 goal back for Juve on 27 minutes, and then he scored another header to level the game just after halftime. And with extra time looming, Federico Bernardeschi was brought down in the penalty area, and Ronaldo completed his hat-trick from the penalty spot to give Juventus a 3-2 aggregate win with his first hat-trick for the Bianconeri, as, of course, Mr. Champions League himself showed up when it really mattered. But just as he was hitting unstoppable momentum, a hamstring injury took him out for 6 Serie A games, which saw Juventus lose their first 2 league matches of the season, and his first game back was a Champions League quarterfinal against Ajax. Ronaldo scored again as Juventus drew the first leg 1-1, and he gave Juventus the lead in the second leg with his 5th goal in the past 3 knockout games. But in a shock result, Ajax scored twice and Juventus were eliminated, and from then on, Juve would only win 1 more game all season. But due to their incredible form in the start of the season, Juventus won the league easily, finishing the season on 90 points, 11 points clear of second place Napoli, to give Ronaldo his first Scudetto, making him a league champion in Spain, England, and Italy, and, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo was named the league MVP as the then 34-year-old had just conquered Italian football on his first attempt. But Ronaldo wasn't done for the summer, as Portugal had reached the finals of the first ever UEFA Nations League, and in the semi-final against Switzerland in Porto, Ronaldo opened the scoring, but Switzerland leveled through a penalty before Ronaldo scored 2 late goals to complete another international hat-trick and take Portugal to the final against the Netherlands, which, of course, they won 1-0 to give Ronaldo another international trophy. Not too bad for a 34-year-old, but as you know, he was only going to get even better in Italy. Because once again, heading into the 1920 season, Juventus started the league on fire, going unbeaten in their first 14 games, with Ronaldo scoring 6 in the 11 games that he played. And in the Champions League, the Old Lady cruised to the top of Group D, winning 5 and drawing 1 of their games. But after missing a game against Atalanta in November, Ronaldo burst into life, going on his best goal-scoring run in Serie A so far. In the 10 Serie A games from December to early February, Ronaldo scored 15 goals, including his first Serie A hat-trick against Cagliari, and this incredible header against Sampdoria when Ronaldo leapt higher than the crossbar, defying gravity to head the ball from a height of 2.56 meters, proving that even at the age of 34, he is still capable of superhuman feats. And after being absent for 1 game, Ronaldo would score against Spal to equal the Serie A record of scoring in 11 consecutive games. But just as it seemed nothing could stop Ronaldo, life was about to get very difficult for him. A virus in Wuhan brought the world to a standstill. Football stopped for 3 months, and Juventus was one of the first teams to impose self-isolation on its players. And to make matters a lot worse, Ronaldo's mother had a mild stroke, so he traveled to his home island of Madeira and quarantined there. Thankfully, she recovered and returned to health. As for Cristiano, the only thing that is more important than football is his family. And that's why what happened in a few years' time nearly broke him as a man. But for now, football restarted with the second leg of the Coppa Italia semi-final, which was a goalless draw in front of empty stands, with Ronaldo missing a penalty kick. But his goal in the first leg was enough for Juventus to go through to the final on the away goals rule, and that final against Napoli a few days later was another goalless draw in an empty stadium. But Napoli won the penalty shootout 4-2 before Ronaldo even had a chance to score from the spot, proving for heartbreak in Turin. The Serie A restarted the following week, and angrier than ever, Ronaldo continued where he left off with 7 goals in 6 games and became the highest-scoring Portuguese player in the history of Serie A. And then 2 games later, his brace against Lazio meant he had now scored 50 goals for Juventus, becoming only the second player to have scored 50-plus goals in 3 of Europe's top 5 leagues. But Juventus once again ended the season poorly, limping over the line with just 2 wins in their final 8 matches. And despite wrapping up the title with 2 games to go, the Bianconeri only finished the season with 83 points, just 1 ahead of Inter Milan, and that poor form had come at the worst time, as the Champions League resumed with the round of 16 immediately after the end of the season, with Juve chasing a 1-goal deficit from the first leg against Lyon. And even though Ronaldo scored twice, including this wonder strike, Memphis Depay also scored to put Lyon through on away goals, and yet again, Juve crashed out of the Champions League with no signs of getting close to lifting it. But those 2 goals from Ronaldo meant he broke Juventus' scoring record for a single season with 37 goals in all competitions. It was clear that, as much as he was performing, the team around him was declining, and this would only prove more true heading into his 3rd season in Italy. Maurizio Sarri was sacked over the summer, and Ronaldo would have his 3rd Juventus head coach in 3 seasons, Andrea Pirlo. And despite having no preseason, Pirlo got off to a perfect start, winning 3-0 at Sampdoria, with Ronaldo scoring the 3rd, and after that, he got both goals in a 2-2 draw against Roma. But then Cristiano Ronaldo was knocked off his feet as he caught COVID-19, testing positive while on international duty and missing 2 Serie A and 2 Champions League games, and by the time he returned, Juventus were only 5th in the league. But Cristiano was performing at a level never seen in Italy from him, with 8 goals in the 5 matches he played. But Juventus were just struggling to convert draws into wins, especially in the games that Ronaldo missed. And when they lost 3-0 to Fiorentina in December, Juventus fell to 6th in the Serie A at the end of the year, but in the Champions League group stage, the return of Ronaldo was key as he led Juventus to 4 victories, including a 3-0 win over Barcelona, with CR7 bagging 2 of the goals to help Juventus win their group. Meanwhile, in the Coppa Italia, Juventus blasted through the early rounds to set up a semi-final against Inter Milan in February, where Ronaldo grabbed Juventus's 2 goals in the first leg to see them win 2-1 on aggregate. But for once, Ronaldo's goals dried up a bit during the winter, and in an extremely tight Serie A table, Juventus lost games to rivals Inter Milan and Napoli, so were unable to break into the top 2 spots in the league. And in the Champions League, Juventus lost on away goals to Porto in the round of 16 and once again failed to progress far through the knockout stages of the competition, proving for the worst Champions League run CR7 has had in years. But back to the Serie A, Ronaldo had rediscovered his shooting boots, scoring 7 in 5 games in February and March, including a hat-trick against Cagliari, but Juventus as a whole continued to splutter, and in early May a 3-0 loss to AC Milan saw them drop back down to 5th with 3 games to go, but Ronaldo scored in the next game against Sassuolo to help Juve win 3-1, and that was his 100th goal for Juventus, making him the fastest Juventus player to reach a century of goals. He would score again in the next game against top-of-the-table Inter Milan to give the Bianconeri a vital win going into the final game of the season. But before that, Juventus had the Coppa Italia final against Atalanta, where Ronaldo gave everything to help Juve win 2-1 and lift the cup, meaning that Ronaldo had won every major trophy in Spain, England, and Italy. But Juventus were still in 5th place going into the final game of the season against Bologna, and in this must-win game, Ronaldo was left on the substitutes bench for what Pirlo claimed was a technical reason, saying that Ronaldo had sacrificed himself to win the cup, and without Ronaldo, Juve won comfortably against mid-table Bologna and finished 4th, just a point behind 2nd, but 13 points off the title. This season also proved record-breaking for Cristiano as he finally added the Italian golden boot to his trophy cabinet, finishing the Serie A season with 29 goals, 5 more than Inter's Romelu Lukaku, making him the first player to be top goal scorer in Italy, Spain, and England. And remember, he's 36 years old at this point. But now, speculation was starting to build that Ronaldo would leave Juventus before the start of the season, and this ran all through the summer, but the same summer saw Ronaldo head off to the Euros, where Portugal, unfortunately, couldn't retain their title with a first knockout round exit to Belgium. The rest of the summer was dominated by rumors that Pep Guardiola's Manchester City and Ronaldo reached a verbal agreement to join them, but in one of the most shocking transfer stories of all time, Cristiano Ronaldo received a call from Sir Alex Ferguson and within 48 hours had officially signed as a Manchester United player yet again. After 3 years in Juventus, where he scored more goals than any other player in that same time span, the stage was set for a return to the Premier League, the league known as the hardest in the world. And of course, the doubters were back in full force, saying he wouldn't be able to hold his own at such an old age. His arrival, signs of unrest could have been seen in the dressing room as Edinson Cavani gave up his number 7 shirt for Cristiano. This transfer was completed in August, which meant that Ronaldo had no preseason and had already missed the first 3 games of United's Premier League campaign. But Ronaldo made his debut in the 4th match of the season against Newcastle, where he got off to a dream start, scoring the opening goal of the game by tapping home a rebound, then later getting on the end of a Luke Shaw through ball to double his tally as United rocked to a 4-1 win. And Manchester United fans entered dreamland. A team of Pogba, Bruno, Sancho, Rashford, and now Ronaldo was sure to bring them back to the glory days, right? A few days later, Cristiano was back in Champions League action, scoring the opening goal against Young Boys, who shocked United by scoring a last-minute winner. But Ronaldo would keep his strong start to the season by scoring against West Ham the next weekend. Then, he finished the month with a last-minute winner of his own, playing against Villarreal in the Champions League. In the Champions League, Ronaldo kept doing his stuff, scoring 6 goals in 5 group stage games, including a double against Atalanta, to ensure Manchester United finished top of Group F. But the Premier League was a different matter, as key injuries against Aston Villa weakened the team's defense, and in that match, United would get a last-minute penalty. But instead of penalty king Ronaldo taking it, Bruno Fernandes took the spot kick instead, but Fernandes smashed the ball over the bar, meaning United lost, and then went on a run of 4 defeats in 5 games, the only win coming against Tottenham Hotspur, where Ronaldo got a goal and an assist in that game. The pressure was now mounting on Solskjaer, who was the Man United manager, until he eventually got the sack, with Michael Carrick coming in to replace him for 2 tough games against Chelsea and Arsenal, where Ronaldo scored twice, including the 800th goal of his career, to give United a 3-2 win. But then United brought in German manager Ralf Rangnick, and despite scoring against Norwich and Burnley, Ronaldo had a rare goalless spell, failing to score against Wolves, Brentford, West Ham, Burnley, and Southampton in his longest goal drought in more than a decade. Ronaldo even missed a penalty against Middlesbrough in the FA Cup and was dropped to the bench against Burnley. And by this stage, his critics were starting to write articles claiming he's too old and needs to hang up his boots. On February 15th against Brighton, he failed to score in the first 10 minutes, making the Baron run his worst goal drought since his move to Real Madrid, going 546 minutes without scoring. But finally, in the 51st minute of that game, Ronaldo's strike from the edge of the box hit the back of the net to register his first goal of 2022. And a month later, Ronaldo was right back on form as he bagged a hat-trick against Tottenham, including this phenomenal strike, before scoring another hat-trick in April against Norwich as he was firing on all fronts for United. But this is when tragedy struck for Cristiano. You see, Ronaldo and his partner Georgina Rodriguez had been expecting twins, but when it came to the birth, only one twin survived, with the other, sadly, not making it out alive. This was without a doubt the toughest moment in Ronaldo's life, as no parent should ever suffer the loss of a child. Ronaldo said only the birth of his twin sister gave him the strength to live after the death of his baby boy. Obviously, this affected him a lot mentally, and as he returned to football, it was clear he was suffering. Tributes from the world poured in, like rival Liverpool fans offering a standing ovation in the 7th minute of their next match, showing in times like this, rivalry doesn't exist. Back in the Premier League, Ronaldo scored 3 goals in the final few games of the season to finish the season on 24 goals in total, with 18 in the league, making him the 3rd highest scorer that season after Mo Salah and Son Heung-min. He was also named in the PFA Premier League Team of the Season at 37 years old, while suffering one of the worst heartbreaks of his career, meaning, yet again, Cristiano Ronaldo proved everyone wrong. But as despite the individual performances, Manchester United only managed to finish 6th in what was the club's worst season since 1990, and they didn't win a trophy, making it the first season Cristiano Ronaldo has gone trophyless since 2010. And this is when Manchester United appointed Erik ten Hag as head coach, who, let's just say, was going to have a few problems with Cristiano. It started in preseason, as Ronaldo did not turn up for the preseason tour, as reports were coming out that he pushed for a transfer to leave the club that summer, saying the club lacked ambition. But nevertheless, he remained at red for the next season, where Ten Hag became the first Manchester United manager in 100 years to lose both of his first 2 league games, including a 4-0 loss to Brentford, which was the only game that Cristiano Ronaldo started in the league until November, as Ten Hag relegated the team's top scorer from the year before to the substitutes bench. Ronaldo could only get a chance to start in the Europa League games, where he scored twice and got 2 assists as United cruised through Group E. But in the league, Ronaldo didn't get to play a single minute of the Manchester Derby, where Ten Hag's side were humiliated 6-3 by Manchester City. When Anthony Martial got injured against Everton, the Dutch head coach was forced to play Ronaldo, who, of course, scored the winning goal, just to find himself on the bench again for the game against Spurs. And when he refused to come on as a late substitute, Ten Hag suspended him for 1 match, and he only got to play in 2 more games after that, before the Premier League took an extended break for the Qatar World Cup. But by this point, Ronaldo had had enough, and before heading to Qatar, he did an interview with Piers Morgan where he said Manchester United hadn't evolved at all since Ferguson left, and that the club couldn't be compared to Real Madrid or Juventus. And he also said Ten Hag had shown him no respect, calling out the manager and basically killing any future he had at Old Trafford. United were fuming after this interview and terminated his contract, ending his long association with the club. In hindsight, Cristiano Ronaldo appears to have been proven right about his comments about Manchester United, as Erik ten Hag eventually got the sack, and United sit in their worst position they have been in decades. But still, it was clear Ronaldo had to go. But that winter of 2022 was about to get worse for Ronaldo, as he captained Portugal at the Qatar World Cup, which could have been his last ever chance at World Cup glory. It started well enough, with Ronaldo becoming the first player to score at 5 different World Cups when he scored a penalty in Portugal's opening match win against Ghana. But when he appeared to sulk over his substitution against South Korea, and head coach Fernando Santos dropped Ronaldo for the round of 16 game against Switzerland, and as Portugal cruised to a 6-1 victory, Ronaldo was kept on the bench for the quarterfinal against Morocco, only coming on when Portugal were already losing 1-0, but he just did not have enough time to make an impact, so Portugal were eliminated from the World Cup, and Ronaldo's club and international future looked uncertain in what was easily the toughest point in his entire career. Cristiano returned from the World Cup clubless, and this is when he was handed an offer that he simply could not refuse, as Saudi side Al Nassr offered to make the 37-year-old the best-paid footballer in the world and start a footballing revolution in the Middle East. Just the annual salary at Al Nassr was 200 million euros a year, not to mention the commercial packages layered on top. At the time, Saudi Arabia was not known as one of the top football destinations, and the country's strategy was that other big-name players would come there because they wanted to play in the same league as Ronaldo. Once Cristiano put pen to paper, the footballing world thought this was just a retirement contract. He was going to fade out of scoring goals and fade out of the national team. But the opposite was going to happen, as it wouldn't be long before Cristiano Ronaldo was yet again the top scorer in the entire world. He made his as Saudi Arabia's Ronaldo gamble paid off, and big names followed him to the Middle East. But none of those superstars could keep up with Ronaldo. Scored 20 league goals for Al Nassr, and when goals for club and country are combined, he had 54 goals for the calendar year, making him the top scorer in world football in 2023, outscoring Kylian Mbappé, Harry Kane, and Erling Haaland, meaning that at 38 years old, Ronaldo had become the world's top scorer for the 5th time in his career. But while he kept scoring in 2024, including hat-tricks against Al-Tai, Abha, and Al-Wehda, it wasn't enough for Al Nassr to keep up with superstars of Al-Hilal, so Ronaldo missed out on the Saudi Pro League title and also lost out to Al-Hilal in the King's Cup, losing on penalties in the final. But Ronaldo did win the Golden Boot, and not just win it, he won it by a mile, with 35 goals, 7 more than closest rival Alexander Mitrovic, showing that even though the other superstars who came to Saudi Arabia thought it would be easy, none of them could get close to Ronaldo. But with Saudi Arabia attracting more and more top players, repeating that feat would be hard, especially as Al Nassr were struggling to compete with Al Hilal and Al Ittihad. But Ronaldo started the season strongly with 6 goals in his first 7 games, as Al Nassr went 10 games unbeaten. And at this time, he scored his 441st goal of his 30s, meaning Ronaldo had actually scored more goals in his 30s than in his 20s. In fact, he scored more in his 30s than Wayne Rooney, the second highest Premier League goal scorer of all time, had scored in his entire career. And after this, Ronaldo just kept scoring. In one spell midway through the season, he hit 10 goals in 9 games, but Al Nassr ended the season poorly with 3 wins in their final 7 games and finished 13 points behind champions Al Ittihad. But yet again, Ronaldo was the league's top scorer with 25 goals, 2 ahead of England international Ivan Toney. Looking back to the Portugal national team, many thought that moving to the Saudi League would put an end to his top-level performances, but that couldn't have been further from the truth, as Ronaldo was still going strong for Portugal, who would reach the Nations League finals, where Ronaldo scored in the quarterfinal against Denmark and the winning goal in the semi-final against Germany to set up a final against Spain. And while Ronaldo scored in the final too, he picked up an injury, so he couldn't take part in the penalty shootout. But Portugal eventually overcame Spain on penalties to win the Nations League for a second time, as this proved a significant victory of Yamal's Spain, proving the future of football has not quite taken over from the king. Now at 40 years old, Ronaldo has signed a new 2-year contract with Al Nassr, somehow making him even more money than the last one, with an even % ownership in the club itself. And now the only thing in Cristiano's mind is the summer of 2026, as he looks to play what is definitely going to be the last World Cup of his entire career. One last shot to make his dream come true. Cristiano Ronaldo, good luck.